Hello friends. Welcome to the Saiyan What Ifs. How are you all? So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Goku was the last Viltrumite inst. Out of Saiyan and fall in love with Invincible's mom and Chi-Chi. Also be sure to subscribe and like this video. Now let's begin. Chapter 1. The Last Son of Viltrum. The pod hurtled through space. A metallic teardrop against the endless void. Inside, an infant slept in suspended animation, unaware of the destruction behind him or the destiny ahead. His homeworld, Viltrum, had been torn apart by civil war, a once mighty empire collapsing under its own weight. He was Kakarot, perhaps the last of his kind, sent away not with dreams of conquest but with desperate hope for survival. Earth's atmosphere ignited the pod's exterior as it plummeted through clouds and sky, leaving a fiery trail visible for hundreds of miles. The impact shook the mountain forest, uprooting ancient trees and sending wildlife fleeing in terror. Steam hissed from the crater as rain began to fall, washing away the dust of interstellar travel. Son Gohan had lived alone in these mountains for decades, seeking peace after years of warfare. The old martial arts master felt the impact from miles away, not just the physical tremor but something deeper, a disturbance in the energy he'd spent a lifetime learning to sense. Lightning illuminated his weathered face as he stared toward the source of the disturbance, rain dripping from his gray beard. Curious, he murmured, adjusting his bamboo hat. Very curious indeed. The journey through the storming forest took hours, but patience had long been Gohan's companion. He found the crater just as dawn broke, golden light piercing through dissipating clouds. The metal sphere lay partially embedded in stone, its surface unmarred despite the violent landing. Strange symbols adorned its hull, nothing like the languages Gohan had encountered in his travels. A sudden hiss made him drop into a defensive stance, hands positioned to redirect energy or strike vital points. The pod's doorway unsealed, sliding open to reveal its passenger, a baby boy with wild black hair and piercing dark eyes that seemed too aware for an infant. Most remarkable was the child's complete lack of fear. He stared at Gohan with something approaching assessment. Well now, Gohan said softly, relaxing his stance. Where did you come from, little one? The child made no sound, but his eyes tracked Gohan's every movement. When the old master reached into the pod, the baby grabbed his finger with surprising strength. Quite a grip you have, Gohan chuckled. You're no ordinary child, are you? Something metallic caught his eye. A small device beside the infant with a screen showing unfamiliar symbols. When Gohan touched it, it projected a holographic image. A man with proud features and a neatly trimmed mustache, wearing armor unlike anything on Earth. The recording. G spoke in an unknown language before shifting to several Earth languages, as if cycling through translation options. Finally, it settled on accented but understandable words. This is Kakarot, son of House Var, last scion of Viltrum. Our world faces extinction. The empire that spanned galaxies has fallen. If you find him, know this, he carries the legacy of the most powerful warrior race in the universe. He may be the last of us. Protect him if you can. Fear him if you must. The message ended abruptly. Gohan looked from the device to the infant, who was now attempting to eat his own foot with determined focus. Kakarot, is it? Gohan lifted the child from the pod. A strange name for these mountains. Perhaps, Son Goku would suit you better here. The baby, now Goku, gurgled what might have been approval or simple digestive distress. You'll need training, Gohan continued, examining the child's unusual muscle definition. Whatever you are, whatever power you possess, you'll need discipline to match. Thunder rumbled in the distance as Gohan wrapped the child in his outer robe and turned toward home. Behind them, the pod's systems initiated a final protocol, compressing in to a compact form that would remain hidden for years to come. Again, Gohan commanded, his voice carrying across the mountain clearing despite his advanced age. Goku, now 7 years old, move through the complex kata with precision that would have been impressive for a martial artist 3 times his age. His small body flowed between stances with liquid grace, each position held with perfect balance before transitioning to the next. Yet Gohan's keen eyes caught the subtle distraction in his ward's movements. Your body performs the moves, but your mind wanders, Gohan said, tapping his wooden staff against the ground. True strength comes from unity of purpose. Again, Goku suppressed a sigh and resumed the starting position. The morning sun glinted off his bare shoulders, high, lighting a physique that defied his years, compact muscles already showing definition that seasoned fighters would envy. More unusual was the thick black hair that refused any attempt at taming, standing in wild spikes regardless of length or weather. Grandfather, Goku began as he moved through the sequence again, why can't I go beyond the mountains? The question had been coming for years. Gohan had prepared for it, yet still found himself hesitating before answering. The world beyond is complicated, Goku. People fear what they don't understand. And they wouldn't understand me, Goku finished. Having heard variations of this answer before, he executed a perfect spinning kick that disturbed not a single blade of grass upon landing. Because I'm different. Gohan nodded, watching the boy resume his forms. Different barely captured it. By 5, Goku had been lifting boulders that adult men couldn't budge. At 6, he'd fallen from a cliff that should have killed him and walked away with only a headache. Now, at 7, his speed was becoming difficult even for Gohan's trained eyes to follow. More concerning were the incidents when Goku's temper flared. The boy tried to hide them. But Gohan had witnessed trees uprooted, stone cracked beneath small fists. These moments were rare. Goku possessed a naturally sunny disposition, but they hinted at power that would only grow. Finish your exercises, Gohan said finally. Then we'll go fishing. I've been teaching you to control your strength, but today I'll show you how to catch the river sharks with your bare hands. Goku's face lit up, momentary disappointment forgotten. Really? You always said they were too dangerous. For most children, yes. But you've shown responsibility with your gifts. Gohan stroked his beard thoughtfully. It's time you learned more advanced techniques. Later, as they sat beside a fire roasting a fish larger than Goku himself, the boy stared into the flames with unusual seriousness. Grandfather, do you know what I am? The question caught Gohan mid-bite. He set down his wooden bowl and considered his answer carefully. You are son Goku, my grandson in all ways that matter. But I came from somewhere else. In a metal egg from the sky. It wasn't a question. Though Gohan had never told him, children in isolated mountain villages still whispered stories, and Goku's ears were sharper than most. Gohan sighed. Yes, I found you when you were just a baby. There was a message. You come from a place called Viltrum, from people called Viltrumites. Were they like me, strong? The message said they were warriors. The strongest in the universe. Goku absorbed this with surprising calmness, poking at the fire with a stick. Are there more like me? Gohan's silence answered before his words could. I don't know. The message suggested. Perhaps not. The boy's shoulders slumped slightly, but he quickly straightened. Then I'll be the best Viltrumite and the best Earthling. I'll make both proud. Gohan smiled, though concern shadowed his eyes. I have no doubt, my boy. No doubt at all. The World Martial Arts Tournament arena pulsed with anticipation. 16-year-old Goku stood at its edge, taking in the sights and sounds with wide-eyed wonder. After grandfather Gohan's passing 3 years ago, he'd continued training in the mountains, honoring his mentor's teachings while developing his own techniques. The tournament represented his first real venture into the wider world. His appearance had changed little since childhood, still the wild hair, still the powerful build. Though now stretched into a man's frame. At 6 feet tall with broad shoulders and narrow waist, he cut an impressive figure in his simple white gi with the turtle school emblem Gohan had given him. Most distinctive was the focused intensity in his dark eyes, contrasting with the easy smile he offered to passing competitors. Many returned the smile, others sized him up with professional assessment. A few, noting his mountaineer clothing and unrefined manners, dismissed him entirely. First-timers at the far table, shouted an official, gesturing toward the registration area. As Goku made his way through the crowd, he became aware of being watched. Not by the other fighters or spectators, but by someone with purpose. Grandfather's training had sharpened his senses beyond normal human capacity. Without being obvious, he scanned the perimeter until he spotted her, a young woman with clipboard and pen, studying him with unconcealed interest. She was striking other than conventionally beautiful, Sharp features framed by short black hair, intelligent eyes missing nothing. Unlike the tournament staff, she wore civilian clothes, crisp white blouse, tailored black pants, and an ID badge partially concealed beneath a light jacket. When their eyes met, she didn't look away, instead making a notation on her clipboard. Goku filed the observation away and continued to the registration table. Name? Asked a bored-looking official. Son Goku. Age? 16. Style? Goku hesitated. My grandfather called it the Turtle School, but we modified it. The official raised an eyebrow but wrote it down. Any previous tournament experience? No, sir. Weight class? I don't understand. The official sighed. How much do you weigh, kid? Goku shrugged. I've never measured. This earned him several amused looks from nearby competitors. The official pointed to a scale, and Goku stepped onto it. The needle swung past expected ranges for his size, eventually settling at a number that made the official frown. That can't be right, he muttered, tapping the scale. Step off and on again. Goku complied, with the same result. Dense muscle mass, offered a passing tournament doctor. Seen it in career fighters. Not usually this extreme, though. The official shrugged and recorded the number. Preliminary rounds start in 30 minutes. Draw your number when they call your block. As Goku moved away from the table, he found his path blocked by the observing woman, now standing directly before him. Son Goku? She asked, though it was clear she already knew. Yes, I'm Drive. Deborah Grayson. You can call me Debbie. She extended her hand. I'm with the Advanced Research Division. Goku shook her hand carefully, mindful of his strength. Research. You study fighting. A smile flickered across her features. In a manner of speaking. I study exceptional human capabilities. My equipment registered some unusual readings when you entered the tournament grounds. Oh. Goku shifted uncomfortably. Grandfather had always warned him about drawing too much attention. I'm just here to test my skills. Of course. She tapped her pen against the clipboard. Would you mind if I observed your matches? Purely for academic purposes. Before Goku could answer, the crowd's energy shifted. A new arrival had entered the Registra. Chion area. A young woman approximately Goku's age, surrounded by students in matching uniforms. Unlike the reverent disciples around her, she carried herself with confident authority, her movement economical and precise. Her hair was gathered in a tight bun, emphasizing strong features that would have been beautiful if not set in such severe concentration. Chi-Chi of the Ox Kingdom School, Debbie noted, following Goku's gaze. Youngest master in the school's history. Her father was a champion before retiring to teach. She moves well, Goku observed, his expert eye catching the perfect balance in her stance. The controlled power in each step. Very disciplined. Chi-Chi must have felt his appraisal because she turned, dark eyes locking with his across the room. For a moment, neither looked away. Then she gave a nearly imperceptible nod, acknowledgement between equals, before turning back to her registration. Debbie watched this exchange with raised eyebrows. Interesting. She's not known for acknowledging outsiders. Goku returned his attention to the researcher. You know a lot about the competitors. My job is to know things, she replied with a slight smile. Speaking of which, would you be willing to answer a few questions after your preliminary matches? Maybe, Goku said, distracted by the announcement of the first drawing block. I should go prepare. Debbie handed him a business card. Find me when you're ready to talk. I think we could have a mutually beneficial conversation. As she walked away, Goku noticed Chi-Chi watching their interaction with undisguised curiosity. When he caught her eye again, she quickly looked elsewhere, but not before Goku noted the slight flush on her cheeks. The preliminaries passed in a blur of overmatched opponents and impressed officials. Goku moved through the brackets with ease, holding back enough to avoid serious injury to his opponents while still demonstrating superior technique. By late afternoon, he had earned a place in the tournament's main bracket of 8 fighters. Among the others to advance was Chi-Chi, whose precision strikes and flawless form had dispatched opponents with methodical efficiency. Also qualifying was a mysterious masked fighter who moved with a fluidity that caught Goku's attention, something familiar in the style, though he couldn't place it. As competitors dispersed to rest before the next day's main event, Goku found himself approaching the Ox Kingdom group where Chi-Chi was instructing her students. Your technique is impressive, he said when she paused. I've never seen the ox style performed with such precision. Chi-Chi dismissed her students with a gesture before turning to him, eyes narrowed in assessment. And what would a mountain hermit know of the ox style? Goku smiled, unoffended. My grandfather collected scrolls on many disciplines. He made me study them all. Your grandfather. Her expression softened slightly. The announcer said you represent the turtle school. Was your grandfather Master Roshi? No, Son Gohan. Chi-Chi's eyes widened. The legendary Son Gohan was your grandfather. He disappeared from the circuit decades ago. He preferred the mountains. Goku glanced toward the setting sun. He taught me everything I know. Except proper tournament etiquette, apparently. Chi-Chi's tone carried more amusement than criticism. You're supposed to reserve some energy during preliminaries. Goku laughed. Was it that obvious I was holding back? To most, no. To someone who studies technique. She allowed herself a small smile. Painfully obvious. Their conversation might have continued, but a tournament official approached with an urgent expression. Miss Chi-Chi, there's a call for you. Your father. The color drained from her face. What's happened? They didn't say, but mentioned it was urgent. Chi-Chi gathered her belongings with efficient movements that couldn't quite hide her concern. Before leaving, she turned to Goku. Tomorrow in the ring, don't hold back. I want to face you at your best. As she hurried away, Debbie appeared at Goku's side, having observed from a discreet distance. That was unexpected, she noted. Chi-Chi doesn't typically socialize with competitors. Goku frowned after Chi-Chi's departing figure. Something's wrong. Her father is in trouble. And you can tell this how, exactly. Instead of answering, Goku turned to Debbie with sudden intensity. You said you study exceptional human capabilities. What kind specifically? Debbie hesitated, then seemed to make a decision. Truthfully, potential extraterrestrial presence on Earth. My equipment detected energy signatures from you similar to readings we've gathered from unexplained phenomena. Like metal pods that fall from the sky. Her sharp intake of breath confirmed his suspicion. You know about the pods. I came in one. My grandfather found me. Goku studied her with new interest. You have information about where I come from. Quote. Debbie glanced around, lowering her voice. Not here. There's a research outpost 20 miles north of the city. If you're serious about learning more, meet me there tomorrow after the tournament. Quote. I can't wait until tomorrow, Goku said firmly. Chi-Chi's father is connected to this somehow. I can feel it. What makes you think? The masked fighter in the preliminaries. Goku interrupted. His technique was familiar because it wasn't human. It was like looking in a mirror, only distorted. Debbie's professionalism cracked slightly. Another like you. That's impossible. Our records indicate. Your records are incomplete, Goku said, already moving toward the exit. Are you coming? I have a feeling we'll both get answers if we hurry. The Ox Kingdom compound sprawled across a mountain valley 30 miles from the tournament grounds. Ancient stone walls surrounded training fields and meditation gardens, with the main house perched on a central hill overlooking the complex. Under normal circumstances, it would have been filled with students. Tonight, an unnatural stillness hung over everything. Goku and Debbie approached on her government-issue motorcycle, its quiet electric engine allowing them to stop a quarter-mile away without detection. The moon illuminated the compound in silvery light, revealing empty guard posts and an atmosphere of abandonment. This doesn't make sense, Debbie whispered as they crouched behind a stone outcropping. The Ox Kingdom School has over 200 students and staff. Goku closed his eyes, extending his senses as grandfather had taught him. 3 heartbeats in the main house. 2 familiar, Chi-Chi and the masked fighter from the tournament. 1 unknown. His eyes snapped open. We need to move now. How did you? Never mind. Debbie unholstered what appeared to be a standard sidearm but featured unusual modifications. I'm coming with you. It's too dangerous. I've been studying beings like you for years. She countered. Whatever's happening involves my research. Besides, you got us here on my motorcycle. Goku nodded reluctantly. Stay behind me. If I tell you to run, don't argue. They moved silently through the compound, Goku's enhanced senses guiding them past tripwires and pressure plates that hadn't been visible in the moonlight. As they neared the main house, voices became audible through an open sliding door. The genetic marker doesn't lie, said a deep, unfamiliar voice. You carry diluted Viltrumite blood, old man. A distant ancestor, perhaps. But enough to make your daughter of interest. Leave her out of this, came a pained response, presumably Chi-Chi's father. Whatever you're looking for, I don't have it. On the contrary, the first voice again, smooth with menace. You've been collecting artifacts for decades. Scrolls, technology fragments, records of heavenly visitors. You know exactly what I seek. Goku motioned for Debbie to wait as he crept closer to the doorway, peering into a traditionally appointed room where the confrontation unfolded. Chi-Chi knelt beside her injured father, defiance burning in her eyes despite the restraints binding her wrists. Across from them stood the masked fighter from the tournament, now unmasked to reveal features strikingly similar to Goku's own, the same sharp jawline and intense eyes. Though framed by a neatly trimmed beard and mustache, most disturbing was the familiar symbol on his chest plate, identical to markings on the pod Gohan had found. The record spoke of a child, the stranger continued, pacing the room, a Viltrumite infant sent to Earth decades ago. Your family's scrolls mentioned a star child, found by a martial arts master. Where is he now? Chi-Chi's father coughed, blood staining his lips. I told you, legends. Nothing more. The stranger sighed with theatrical patience. You test my tolerance, Ox King. Perhaps your daughter will prove more cooperative after watching your suffering increase. Touch him again and I'll kill you, Chi-Chi said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her shoulders. The stranger laughed, spirited. You might indeed carry the blood of Viltrum. However diluted. He reached toward her face. Let's see how much pain you can. Enough. Goku stepped through the doorway, power radiating from his controlled stance. I'm the one you're looking for. The stranger turned, genuine surprise crossing his features before settling into calculated assessment. Well now, the lost child appears. His eyes narrowed. You've grown strong. For a half-trained whelp. Let them go, Goku said. Your quarrel is with me. My quarrel. The stranger laughed. You misunderstand, boy. I've spent years searching for survivors of our race. I am Nappa, commander of what remains of the Viltrumite elite guard. You are Kakarot, son of House Var, and my salvation. The name struck Goku like a physical blow. Kakarot, the name from the message. His birth name. What happened to Viltrum? The message said. Civil war, Nappa interrupted. The empire grew too large, our leaders too corrupt. When the revolution came, it tore our world apart. His expression hardened. But some of us survived. We've been gathering, rebuilding. Each Viltrumite we recover strengthens our chance of restoring the empire. Chi-Chi said the distraction to work at her restraints, exchanging meaningful glances with her father. Goku noticed but kept his attention on Nappa. And these people, what do they have to do with anything? Nappa gestured dismissively. The Ox lineage has distant Viltrumite ancestry, travelers who came to Earth millennia ago and bred with humans. Diluted blood, but still valuable for tracking purposes. His eyes gleamed. They led me to you. Pure-blooded and strong. You should be grateful. Grateful. Goku's voice remained calm, but energy crackled around his clenched fists. You've hurt innocent people. Innocent. Nappa scoffed. They're humans. Weak, short-lived creatures who would worship us as gods if they understood our true power. He extended a hand. Come with me, Kakarot. Learn what it truly means to be Viltrumite. Claim your birthright among the stars. For a moment, Goku hesitated, the offer touching something primal within him, a longing to understand his origins, to belong among his kind. Then he looked at Chi-Chi's determined face, her father's dignity despite his injuries, and remembered grandfather Gohan's gentle wisdom. My name, he said quietly, is Son Goku. And my birthright is here. Nappa's expression darkened. Disappointing. The humans have weakened you with their sentimentality. He moved with sudden blurring speed, appearing directly before Goku. Perhaps you need a demonstration of true Viltrumite power. The punch came faster than any human could follow, aimed at Goku's solar plexus with force enough to shatter concrete. Instead of connecting, it met Goku's open palm. The impact sending shockwaves through the wooden floor. Impressive reflexes, Nappa acknowledged, surprise flickering in his eyes. Your instincts remain intact, at least. Goku said nothing, shifting his weight to a defensive stance grandfather had taught him. one specifically designed for opponents of superior strength. Except, for the first time in his life, Goku faced someone who might be his equal. The realization should have frightened him. Instead, excitement coursed through his veins, a primal Viltrumite response to worthy challenge. Nappa recognized the gleam in Goku's eyes and smiled. You feel it, don't you? The thrill of facing a true opponent. That's your heritage calling to you, boy. Maybe, Goku admitted, but how I use that feeling is my choice. The fight erupted with explosive force, both combatants moving at speeds that rendered them nearly invisible to normal human perception. Nappa attacked with brutal efficiency, each strike calculated to disable or kill. Goku responded with the fluid adaptability Gohan had instilled in him, turning Nappa's superior strength against him, using momentum and leverage where raw power wouldn't suffice. Chi-Chi finally freed herself from her restraints and quickly moved to untie her father. We need to get out of here, she whispered. No, the Ox King said weakly. The scrolls, in my study. They contain information about the Viltrumites. We can't let him take them. Across the room, Debbie had entered silently during the confrontation and now worked her way around the perimeter toward them. Government agent, she whispered. Showing her ID. Can you walk? The Ox King nodded grimly. The study is down the hall, third door. Black lacquer cabinet, combination 3725. Debbie glanced at Chi-Chi. Stay with your father. I'll get the scrolls. Meanwhile, the battle between Goku and Nappa had escalated, their movements demolishing walls and supports as they crashed through the traditional structure. Nappa fought with growing frustration, his superior experience countered by Goku's unorthodox style. You fight like a human, Nappa spat, blood trickling from a split lip, the first injury he'd sustained in decades. Viltrumites dominate through overwhelming force. Maybe that's why your empire fell, Goku countered, ducking under a punch that pulverized a support beam. Too much force, not enough wisdom. Nappa's eyes narrowed dangerously. You know nothing of our history, whelp. He pressed his attack with renewed fury, driving Goku back through another wall and into the central courtyard. I was conquering worlds while your father was still learning to fly. The mention of his father momentarily distracted Goku, allowing Nappa to land a devastating blow to his midsection. Pain exploded through his body as he crashed into a stone garden statue, reducing it to rubble. Pathetic, Nappa stalked forward. You could have been magnificent. Instead, you'll die defending creatures who fear and envy you. Quote. Goku struggled to his feet, one arm wrapped around his ribs. You're wrong about humans, he gasped. They taught me something Viltrumites never learned. Strength isn't just about power. It's about what you protect. Noble sentiments, Nappa sneered. Let's see if they comfort you in death. He lunged forward, but this time Goku was ready. Drawing on techniques the Ox King scrolls had only hinted at, techniques Gohan had adapted for his unique physiology, Goku channeled his energy into focused points rather than dispersing it through brute force. When Nappa's attack came, Goku redirected it with perfect timing, adding his own power at the critical moment. The combined energies created a shockwave that sent Nappa hurtling backward through the compound wall and into the mountainside beyond. Stone cracked and collapsed around his impact point, burying him under tons of rubble. Goku dropped to one knee, breathing heavily. The fight had pushed him beyond any previous limits, awakening abilities he hadn't known he possessed. He could feel something fundamental changing within him, power responding to necessity, evolving to meet the challenge. Goku. Chi-Chi's voice cut through his concentration. She ran across the courtyard, her father supported between her and Debbie. We need to leave, now. He's not defeated, Goku said, rising unsteadily. Just stunned. As if confirming his words, the rubble shifted, rocks tumbling away as Nappa began to extract himself. I have what we need, Debbie said, patting a satchel filled with scrolls. But we can't fight him again. Not here. The temple, the Ox King gasped. Underground chambers, containment seals for demons. Might hold him. Chi-Chi nodded. East path, through the bamboo grove. We can seal the entrance behind us. Goku glanced toward the moving rubble. You three go. I'll hold him off. No. Chi-Chi grabbed his arm with surprising strength. You've already proven your courage. Now prove your wisdom by retreating when necessary. Their eyes met, something unspoken passing between them. After a moment, Goku nodded. Lead the way. They fled through the bamboo grove as the first stars appeared overhead, the sound of Nappa's enraged roar following them into the gathering darkness. The ancient temple loomed ahead, its stone facade carved with warnings in languages long forgotten. Behind them, a figure rose into the night sky, silhouetted against the moon, Nappa, airborne and searching. Goku had suspected Viltrumites could fly, but seeing the ability demons traded sent a shiver of recognition through him, awakening instinctive knowledge buried in his cells. Inside, the Ox King urged as they reached the temple entrance. Quickly, the interior was cool and dark, illuminated only by Chi-Chi's small flashlight as they descended worn stone steps into the earth. Ancient symbols lined the walls, wards against evil, according to the Ox King's labored explanation. The innermost chamber, he directed, sacred geometry, designed to contain energy, any energy. They reached a circular room deep underground, its perimeter inscribed with intricate patterns that seemed to shift when viewed directly. At its center stood a raised dais surrounded by pillars carved with the same symbols that had adorned Goku's pod. Viltrumite, Debbie whispered, recognizing the markings. This temple was built to contain them. Or worship them, the Ox King amended. Our ancestors had complicated relationships with the Star People. He collapsed onto a stone bench, strength failing. Chi-Chi knelt beside her father, concern etched on her features. How do we activate the containment field? Blood of the guardian lineage, he replied. Your blood, Chi-Chi. Before she could respond, the temple shook violently. Dust and small stones rained from the ceiling as a tremendous impact resonated through the structure. He's found us, Goku said grimly. And he's breaking through. Debbie checked her weapon, though all present knew it would be useless against a Viltrumite. How much time do we have? Another impact, stronger than the first, answered her question. Minutes. Goku estimated. Maybe less. The Ox King pushed himself upright with visible effort. Chi-Chi, the central pillar. Place your hand in the recess and focus your energy as I taught you. Chi-Chi moved to the indicated pillar while Goku positioned himself between the stairway and the others. Another impact shook the chamber, larger chunks of masonry falling now. What happens when the field activates? Debbie asked, supporting the Ox King. If the legends are true, he replied, it creates a localized energy dampening field. Within it, even a Viltrumite should be reduced to normal human strength. Quote, Chi-Chi placed her hand in the pillar's recess, wincing as hidden mechanisms drew blood from her palm. The chamber's inscriptions began to glow with soft blue light, patterns activating in sequence around the room. It's working, she called. I can feel something. A final tremendous crash interrupted her as the stairway collapsed entirely. Through the dust and debris, Nappa descended. His armor cracked and eyes blazing with rage. Impressive, he growled, landing at the chamber's edge. You've led me to one of the old temples our ancestors built. These as gathering places when visiting primitive worlds. You've got it backwards, the Ox King said. Humans built these to protect themselves from your kind. Nappa laughed harshly. Protect? From gods. He stepped forward, only to hesitate as the glowing patterns brightened. What trickery is this? Goku moved to intercept him. Go back to the stars, Nappa. There's nothing for you here. I will not be denied by a traitor to his race. Nappa lunged forward, only to stagger as he crossed the outermost ring of symbols. His momentum faltered, body suddenly heavier, movements sluggish compared to his previous speed. Confusion, then fear crossed his features. What have you done to me? The field equalizes all within it, the Ox King explained, satisfaction in his tired voice. Inside this chamber, you're no stronger than any human. Rage contorted Nappa's face as he struggled against the field's effect. Impossible. Viltrumite power cannot be contained by primitive science. Not science, Chi-Chi corrected. Her hand still connected to the pillar. Something much older. Nappa roared in frustration and charged toward Goku, attacking with techniques that would have been devastating at full power. Now, reduced to human strength, his movements seemed almost slow. Goku met him with perfect form, applying the foundational techniques grandfather Gohan had drilled into him since childhood. Without superhuman power to rely on, the fight became purely about skill, And in this, Goku's lifelong training proved superior to Nappa's millennia of overwhelming opponents through raw strength. A precisely delivered sequence of strikes left Nappa gasping on the chamber floor, defeated not by power but by technique. Impossible, he wheezed, blood staining his beard. I am elite. You relied too much on your natural gifts, Goku said quietly. My grandfather taught me to fight as if I had no advantages. Nappa's eyes burned with hatred. Kill me then. Finish it. No. Goku straightened, relaxing his stance. That's not our way. Our way. Nappa spat. You know nothing of Viltrumite ways. I meant human ways, Goku clarified. At least, the best of them. Debbie approached cautiously, her weapon trained on Nappa. We need information from him. About the other Viltrumites, their plans for Earth. He won't cooperate, Chi-Chi said, finally releasing her connection to the pillar. The patterns continued glowing, maintaining the field. Not willingly. The Ox King coughed weakly, drawing their attention. The scrolls, they mention Viltrumite vulnerabilities. Specific frequencies that disrupt their molecular structure. You would torture me, Nappa laughed bitterly. Perhaps you're more like us than the boy believes. Not torture, Debbie corrected. Leverage, cooperation in exchange for humane treatment. While they debated Nappa's fate, Goku moved to examine the chamber's inscriptions more closely. Something about them resonated with him, not memories exactly, but recognition at a cellular level. His fingers traced patterns that seemed to whisper secrets in a language he'd never learned yet somehow understood. This place wasn't built to contain Viltrumites, he said suddenly, or to worship them. It was built by them, as a safe house. All eyes turned to him, including Nappa's suddenly intent gaze. What do you mean? Debbie asked. Goku continued moving around the chamber, reading symbols that should have been incomprehensible. The patterns describe a refuge for those who chose peace over conquest. Viltrumites who wanted to live among humans, not rule them. Nappa's expression shifted from contempt to calculation. Impossible. The peaceful heresy was stamped out generations ago. Not stamped out, the Ox King interjected, understanding dawning. Hidden. The star people in our legends weren't conquerors or gods. They were refugees. From their own kind, Chi-Chi finished, looking at Nappa with new understanding. Which means there could be others like Goku. Viltrumites who chose a different path. Hope and fear warred in Nappa's eyes. If what you say is true, if others survived the purge. He struggled to sit up. The Empire would stop at nothing to find them. To eliminate the infection of weakness. Is that why you came looking for me? Goku asked. To eliminate a potential heretic. No, Nappa admitted reluctantly. To recruit you. Our numbers are few since the Civil War. Every pure-blooded Viltrumite is precious now. Debbie's analytical mind connected pieces rapidly. You're not with the Empire at all. You're with the rebellion that tore it apart. Nappa's silence confirmed her theory. Which means, she continued, there could be three factions. The remaining Empire loyalists, the rebellion fighters like Nappa, and the peaceful separatists who hid on Earth. The chamber trembled slightly, dust filtering down from the ceiling. The temple, damaged by Nappa's violent entry, was becoming unstable. We need to leave, Chi-Chi warned. The structure won't hold much longer. Goku turned to Nappa. If we release you from the field, will you continue trying to kill us? Nappa's pride warred with pragmatism. Finally, he said, I came for information and reinforcements. I've found both, though not as expected. If the peaceful heresy truly established a foothold on Earth, that knowledge is more valuable than your corpse. Not exactly a promise of non-violence, Debbie noted dryly. It's the best we'll get, Goku said. He extended a hand to the fallen Viltrumite. Temporary truce. Nappa stared at the offered hand with confusion before grasping it with surprising formality. Until I determine where your true loyalties lie, Kakarot. The name's Goku, he corrected, pulling Nappa to his feet. And my loyalties are to the people I care about, regardless of their planet of origin. Another tremor shook the chamber, larger than before. Cracks appeared in the ceiling. Ancient stone groaning under structural stresses it was never designed to withstand. Chi-Chi, can you deactivate the field? Goku asked urgently. She returned to the central pillar, placing her hand in the recess. The glowing patterns dimmed, and immediately Nappa straightened, his strength returning. For a tense moment, everyone prepared for betrayal. Instead, Nappa moved with blurry-ing speed to support a collapsing section of ceiling. Move, he ordered. I'll hold it while you escape. The Ox King shook his head weakly. The knowledge in this chamber, millennia of history, already recorded, Nappa grunted, muscles straining against the massive weight. In the scrolls your human has taken. Nothing here is worth dying for. Goku joined him at the critical support point, adding his strength to Nappa's. Get them out, he told Debbie and Chi-Chi. We'll be right behind you. Debbie hesitated only briefly before helping Chi-Chi support the Ox King toward a secondar. Exit revealed when the field deactivated. As they disappeared up the narrow passage, Nappa gave Goku a sidelong look. You trust too easily, boy. Not trust, Goku corrected, adjusting his grip as more debris rained down. Hope. There's a difference. Nappa made a sound that might have been a laugh. Perhaps the peaceful heretics weren't completely misguided. With sudden decision, he shifted his weight. On 3, we let go and fly. 1, 2, 3. They released the ceiling and launched themselves toward the exit with superhuman speed, the chamber collapsing behind them. Stone Dew. Saint chased them up the passage as they ascended rapidly, emerging into the night air moments before the entire temple structure imploded. Stars glittered overhead as they stood in the bamboo grove, quiet aftermath of destruction settling around them. In the distance, Chi-Chi and Debbie had reached safety with the Ox King. What happens now? Goku asked, turning to Nappa. The older Viltrumite stared at the stars with complex emotions crossing his features. Now I report what I've found. A colony of heretics hidden for generations, preserving their bloodlines among humans. His eyes shifted to Goku. And a pure blood who fights with skill instead of just strength. Will your people come in force? Eventually. Nappa's honesty was unexpectedly refreshing. But not immediately. We have more pressing concerns than ideological purity at the moment. The Empire remnants, Goku guessed. Nappa nodded. They're regrouping. If they return to full strength, nowhere in the galaxy will be safe. Especially not for heretics and half-breeds. Then we have time to prepare. Some, Nappa conceded. Use it wisely, Kakarot. Learn what it truly means to be Viltrumite, the strength, the responsibility. He rose into the air, hovering above the bamboo. Your grandfather taught you human discipline. Now you need Viltrumite knowledge. And where would I get that? Goku asked. From you. Nappa's mouth twisted in what might have been amusement. I'm a soldier, not a teacher. But there are others. He glanced toward the Ox compound. The woman with the scrolls, she studies our kind. Start there. Learn our history, our biology, and if your people come before I'm ready, then fight well and die with honor. Nappa rose higher. Or join us against the Empire and perhaps live to see the stars your ancestors abandoned. Quote. With those parting words, he accelerated upward at impossible speed, becoming a diminishing point of light among countless others. Goku watched until he vanished, feeling strangely torn between the earth beneath his feet and the vast cosmos above. Chi-Chi's voice broke his reverie. Is he gone? Goku turned to find her standing at the edge of the clearing. Moonlight silvering her determined features. For now. Will he come back? Probably. With others. She nodded, accepting this with remarkable composure. Then we have work to do. She held out her hand. My father wants to speak with you. And your government friend has questions that won't wait until morning. Goku took her offered hand, feeling the calluses that matched his own, the mark of a lifetime dedicated to martial discipline. I'm sorry about the tournament. I was looking forward to our match. The smallest smile touched her lips. We'll have plenty of opportunities to test each other's skills, son Goku. I suspect that was just the first of many interrupted competitions. As they walked together toward the waiting figures of Debbie and the Ox King, Goku felt a strange certainty settling over him. His life had changed irrevocably tonight, the path ahead filled with dangers and discoveries he could scarcely imagine. Yet for the first time, he didn't feel alone in facing them. He was the last son of Viltrum, but perhaps the first of something new. Chapter 1 End Chapter 2, Worlds in Collision. Debbie Grayson's fingers flew across the specialized keyboard, translating ancient symbols into modern language. The government research facility, disguised as a mundane meteorological station, hummed with energy as sophisticated equipment processed data from the Ox Kingdom scrolls. 3 weeks had passed since the confrontation with Nappa, and she'd barely slept, driven by the magnitude of their discovery. Cross-reference complete, announced the AI assistant. Viltrumite genetic markers identified in 17 historical bloodlines. Debbie pushed away from the terminal, rubbing eyes strained from hours of focus. The laboratory around her represented the cutting edge of extraterrestrial research, technology reverse-engineered from crashed ships, energy fields calibrated to detect non-human signatures, and containment systems designed for the unknown. All of it hidden in plain sight, 40 miles from the nearest town. Dr. Grayson, a young researcher, appeared at the doorway. "He's here again." Debbie sighed. "Send him to the observation deck. I'll be there in 5 minutes." She gathered her notes and tablet, pausing to study the central display where a rotating DNA helix highlighted the non-human segments they'd identified in Goku's blood sample. The differences were subtle but profound: enhanced cellular regeneration, density beyond normal human parameters, and energy absorption mechanisms that defied conventional biology. The observation deck overlooked the facility's testing range, a mile-long stretch of reinforced concrete surrounded by measuring equipment. At its center stood Goku, patiently waiting as technicians adjusted monitoring devices attached to his bare torso. Despite the cool morning air, he showed no discomfort, his physiology maintaining perfect homeostasis. 3 visits in 1 week, Debbie said, joining him at the railing. "People will start talking." General Hayes didn't smile. A career military man in his 50s, his weathered face rarely revealed emotion. "People already are talking, Doctor. That's the problem." "Which people specifically?" "The kind who control our funding." He handed her a tablet displaying classified communications. "The Defense Department is questioning the resources allocated to your division. They want weaponization timelines, not anthropological research." Debbie scanned the document, frustration tightening her jaw. "We've been over this. The Viltrumite biology isn't something we can simply reverse engineer into weapons. Their entire cellular structure." "I know the science," Hayes interrupted. "They don't care. All they see is a being who can lift tanks and possibly fly. They want that capability, or at minimum, ways to neutralize it." Below them, Goku completed a series of movements that combined martial arts precision with impossible speed, his form blurring. As measuring equipment struggled to track him, data streams flowed into the facility's computers, each movement analyzed from multiple angles. "He's not a weapon," Debbie said quietly. "He's a person, possibly the key to understanding humanity's place in a much larger universe." Hayes studied Goku with professional assessment. "He's both, Doctor. You'd be wise to remember that." He straightened his uniform jacket. "The oversight committee arrives tomorrow. Have something impressive to show them, or your funding gets redirected to programs with more immediate applications." After he left, Debbie remained at the window, watching Goku demonstrate abilities that redefined human potential. His power had increased noticeably since their first encounter, either from the confrontation with Nap, or simply natural development triggered by awareness of his heritage. When the morning's tests concluded, Goku joined her in the observation lounge, toweling sweat from his face and neck. Despite the grueling exercises, he appeared energized rather than exhausted. "Your general friend doesn't like me much," he observed, accepting the protein shake Debbie offered. "Hayes isn't my friend. He's my supervisor, technically." She leaned against the table. "And it's not personal. He's worried about what you represent." A threat. Goku's directness was refreshing compared to the military's careful language. A paradigm shift. Proof that humanity isn't alone, or particularly special. Debbie gestured toward the facility beyond the window. All this was built on the assumption that alien contact would be gradual, diplomatic. Not that we've been hosting visitors for millennia. Goku finished his shake, considering this. The Ox King's scrolls mention others like Nappa coming to Earth throughout history. Some conquering, some hiding. That's what concerns them. The idea that there could be more Viltrumites, or half-Viltrumites, living among us undetected. She studied him carefully. "You're still planning to leave tomorrow?" Quote. He nodded. "Chi-Chi's father has recovered enough to resume teaching. They've invited me to study the remaining scrolls that weren't translated yet. We have translation algorithms that Some knowledge shouldn't be processed by machines, Goku interrupted gently. The Ox techniques are passed from master to student, person to person. Besides, his expression lightened. Chi-Chi promised to show me advanced forms if I help rebuild their training grounds. Debbie noted the subtle shift in his demeanor when mentioning Chi-Chi. Nothing obvious, just a slight softening around the eyes. An unconscious adjustment in posture. Interesting. I've compiled everything we've learned so far, she said, handing him a small data drive. Your biological profile, historical references to Viltrumites on Earth, and analysis of the temple's construction. Goku accepted it with genuine gratitude. Thank you for everything, Debbie. For believing me from the beginning. I'm a scientist. Evidence is what matters, not preconceptions. She hesitated, then added, but be careful at the Ox Kingdom. The scrolls contain techniques developed specifically to combat Viltrumites. Some might affect you in unexpected ways. His expression grew serious, like the temple's suppression field. Possibly more dangerous. The ancient practitioners were creative in their countermeasures. She touched his arm briefly. Just check in occasionally, all right. For data purposes, of course. Goku smiled, seeing through her professional demeanor. Of course. For science. Chi-Chi moved through the advanced kata with fluid precision, each stance flowing into the next with controlled power. Around her, the Ox Kingdom's central training yard lay in various stages of reconstruction, some areas still bearing scorch marks from Nappa's attack, others freshly rebuilt with new timber and stone. Her students watched with respectful silence, 12 disciples who returned after the attack despite the potential danger. Their numbers had dwindled from over 200 to this determined few, most parents having withdrawn their children following rumors of terrorist activity at the compound. As she completed the sequence, Chi-Chi caught her father watching from the veranda, his imposing figure still showing effects from his injuries, the slight stiffness in his movements. The walking stick he'd never needed before. The sight strengthened her resolve. Master Chi-Chi, ventured one of the older students, will Son Goku be returning today? The question carried no particular emphasis. Yet Chi-Chi felt the curious gazes of all 12 students. Goku's abilities had made a profound impression during his brief visits to help with reconstruction. His training at the research facility concludes today, she answered neutrally. He expressed interest in studying our historical scrolls. This wasn't the whole truth. In the weeks since Nappa's attack, her communications with Goku had evolved from formal exchanges about martial techniques to lengthy discussions about their respective traditions, philosophies, and experiences. His perspective, shaped by isolation and his unique heritage, offered insights that challenged her traditional viewpoints. Return to your forms, she instructed the students. Focus on maintaining perfect balance through transition points. As they resumed practice, Chi-Chi approached her father, concern shadowing her features. You should be resting. The Ox King, a mountain of a man even in his weakened state, chuckled. I've rested enough to drive any warrior mad. Besides, he gestured toward the training yard, watching the next generation preserves my spirits. Chi-Chi followed his gaze, pride mingling with worry. 12 students, father, from hundreds, quality over quantity. These 12 stayed knowing the dangers. He placed a massive hand on her shoulder. As did you, despite my suggestions otherwise. The Ox Kingdom had been more than a martial arts school, it had been a cultural institution, preserving traditions dating back centuries. Now its future hung in precarious balance, reputation damaged and finances strained by rebuilding costs. The Ministry of Cultural Preservation called again, Chi-Chi said quietly. They've suspended our historical site designation pending investigation. Politicians. The Ox King dismissed them with a wave. They've always feared what they don't understand. Our ancestors faced the same challenges. Our ancestors weren't trying to maintain accreditation for modern students. She countered. Without certification, we can't issue recognized diplomas. Without diplomas, we can't attract serious students. Perhaps we need different students. The Ox King's eyes twinkled mysteriously. The kind interested in knowledge beyond certificates. Before Chi-Chi could respond, a student approached with respectful urgency. Masters, a government vehicle has arrived at the main gate. Chi-Chi exchanged glances with her father. Dr. Grayson, The car bears different markings, the student reported. Military, I believe. The Ox King straightened, reaching for his ceremonial robe. Escort them to the formal reception hall. Chi-Chi, change quickly. We'll present a united front. Minutes later, they knelt at the head of the traditional receptee. En room as 3 visitors were announced. A military officer Chi-Chi didn't recognize, a civilian in an expensive suit, and to her surprise, Debbie Grayson. General Hayes, Department of Special Research. The officer introduced himself with minimal courtesy. This is Undersecretary Warren from Defense Intelligence, and you know Drive. Grayson. Debbie gave Chi-Chi an apologetic look that suggested this visit wasn't her idea. The Ox King performed introductions with formal dignity despite the visitor's brusque manner. Once protocols were observed, he addressed them directly. What brings such distinguished officials to our humble school? Warren adjusted his glasses with manicured fingers. Let's dispense with pleasantries, Master Ox. Your facility experienced an incident 3 weeks ago. That destroyed significant property and resulted in unexplained energy signatures detected by national security systems. A training accident, the Ox King replied smoothly. Some ancient techniques can be volatile when improperly executed. Ancient techniques don't register on satellite monitoring systems, Hayes said flatly. Nor do they leave genetic markers consistent with non-human entities. Chi-Chi maintained perfect composure, though internally she calculated paths to the hidden storage room containing the most sensitive scrolls. What exactly are you implying, General? We're not implying anything, Warren interjected. We're stating facts. This facility has historical connections to extraterrestrial activity dating back centuries. You recently hosted 2 confirmed non-hum entities engaging in combat that threatened national security. If you've spoken with Dr. Grayson, Chi-Chi responded, you know one of those entities helped protect us from attack. Debbie finally spoke, her professional tone masking obvious tension. That's correct, sir. Son Goku defended the Ox Kingdom personnel at significant personal risk. Hayes dismissed this with a gesture. His motivations remain unverified. What we know with certainty is that this facility contains knowledge about potentially hostile alien species that constitutes a matter of national security. The Ox King's expression hardened. Our scrolls have been family property for 20 generations. They don't belong to any government. Perhaps not historically, Warren said with bureaucratic precision, but current circumstances invoke several statutes regarding technologies and information affecting national defense. You're here to confiscate our heritage, Chi-Chi stated flatly, anger finally showing through her controlled exterior. We're here to secure vital intelligence, Hayes corrected. Your cooperation would be appreciated but isn't strictly necessary. A tense silence filled the room. Chi-Chi noticed Debbie subtly checking her watch, a movement too deliberate to be casual. Perhaps, the Ox King said carefully, we can reach a compromise that serves both our interests. Warren raised an eyebrow. We're listening. Our scrolls contain techniques developed over centuries, many dangerous without proper context and training. We could provide access to qualified researchers under supervision, maintaining the knowledge's integrity while addressing your security concerns. Hayes and Warren exchanged glances, clearly having expected more resistance. That arrangement could work temporarily, Warren allowed, though final disposition would require higher authorization. Excellent, Debbie interjected with surprising enthusiasm. Since I'm already familiar with the material, I could begin cataloging immediately while the formal agreements are drafted. Chi-Chi caught the scientist's meaningful look and understood something else was happening beneath the surface of this conversation. Of course, the Ox King agreed. Chi-Chi will show you to our archival room while I discuss terms with these gentlemen. As they left the men to negotiations, Chi-Chi led Debbie through the compound's winding corridors, maintaining silence until they were out of earshot. You're stalling them, she observed quietly. Why? Debbie glanced around before answering. Goku left our facility earlier than expected. He sensed something approaching, something like him but different. He went to investigate. Chi-Chi absorbed this with outward calm, though her heart rate accelerated. Another Viltrumite, possibly. Our sensors detected an object entering Earth's atmosphere shortly before dawn, similar energy signature to Nappa's arrival but not identical. They reached the archival room where lesser scrolls were kept, historical records and basic techniques rather than the advanced knowledge hidden elsewhere. Why bring the military here now? Chi-Chi asked, sliding open the traditional door. They were already coming. I convinced Hayes to bring me along when the alert came in. Debbie examined the room with professional interest. How much time do you need to secure the sensitive materials? Chi-Chi reassessed the government scientist, appreciating her unexpected alliance. You're risking your position. I'm protecting invaluable cultural heritage, Debbie corrected with a small smile. And ensuring we don't repeat historical mistakes in handling extraterrestrial knowledge. How much time? 20 minutes to move the critical scrolls to the secondary location. Another hour to create convincing substitutes for anything they might specifically request. Debbie nodded. I can keep them occupied with the preliminary catalog for at least that long. Your father seems quite capable of extending negotiations indefinitely. A skill passed through generations of dealing with authorities, Chi-Chi confirmed with the ghost of a smile. Thank you. Drive. Grayson. Debbie, please. And don't thank me yet. Her expression grew serious. Whatever's coming, it found Earth for a reason. We're all better served with knowledge preserved than confiscated. Goku raced through the upper atmosphere, his body adjusting to the thinning air through mechanisms he was only beginning to understand. Flying came naturally now, as though his cells had always known. Halbert waited for the right trigger, in this case, witnessing Nappa's departure 3 weeks ago. The sensation was exhilarating, freedom unlike anything he'd experienced. Yet today he flew with purpose rather than joy. Following an energy signature that resonated with something primal within him. He'd detected it during the morning's tests, a distant disturbance that registered not through conventional senses but through what grandfather Gohan had called key awareness, the ability to perceive living energy. This signature carried the same alien resonance he'd felt from Nappa, yet distinctly different in quality. The object entered Earth's atmosphere over the Pacific Ocean, its trajectory bringing it toward the northern continent. Goku intercepted its path at stratospheric height, hovering in place as the incoming vessel resolved from distant speck to distinct form. Unlike Nappa's utilitarian craft, this ship displayed elegant lines and sophisticated technology. It decelerated with precise control, adjusting course to maintain distance from Goku's position, aware of his presence and apparently cautious. Communication equipment in his ear, provided by Debbie's research team, crackled with her voice. Goku. We're tracking both signatures. Can you provide visual confirmation? It's definitely a ship, he responded. Smaller than Nappa's, more advanced design. It's holding position about 2 miles away. Any hostile movements? No. It seems to be waiting. The ship remained stationary, its systems humming with power Goku could sense even at this distance. After several tense minutes, a section of the hull reconfigured, forming an opening from which a figure emerged. The newcomer wore no space suit or protective gear, confirming Viltrumite physiology. As they approached, Goku noticed significant differences from Nappa. This Viltrumite was female, with features that combined ethereal beauty and martial purpose. Her uniform bore insignia unlike anything from Nappa's armor, and her bearing suggested authority rather than mere combat prowess. She stopped a respectful distance away, studying Goku with analytical intensity. When she spoke, her voice carried clearly despite the thin atmosphere. In perfect, unaccented English. Kakarot of House Var, you've developed impressively for one raised in isolation. Goku maintained combat readiness while keeping his posture non-threatening. My name is Son Goku. Who are you, and why have you come to Earth? A smile touched her lips. Direct. Good. I am Fasha, commander of the diplomatic corps for the Viltrumite Reformation. As for why I'm here, her expression grew serious. Nappa's unauthorized mission to Earth triggered security protocols. I've come to assess the situation before others take more drastic measures. Others like the Empire remnants he mentioned. Among others, Fasha glanced toward the planet below. May we continue this conversation in more comfortable surroundings. I come with peaceful intent. Confirmed by my approach vector and voluntary disclosure. Goku considered his options. If she meant harm, confrontation at this altitude minimized collateral damage. Yet his instinct, which grandfather had taught him to trust, detected no immediate threat. There's a location in the mountains, he decided. Isolated, defensible, we can talk there. Fasha inclined her head in agreement. Lead the way. The descent to Earth took minutes, Goku setting course for a plateau several miles from both the research facility and the Ox Kingdom. As they flew, he maintained communication with Debbie, who listened through his earpiece. "We'll track your position," she assured him. "Satellite coverage shows no additional craft in orbit. If she's telling the truth about being alone, his could be the diplomatic contact we've been hoping for." They landed in a clearing surrounded by ancient pines, their massive trunks providing natural barriers. Fasha touched down with practiced grace, examining their surroundings with approving eyes. "Strategically sound choice," she noted. "Defensible, multiple escape routes, minimal civilian exposure. Your combat training has been comprehensive despite your isolation." "My grandfather was thorough," Goku acknowledged. "Now explain why the Viltrumite Reformation sent you specifically." Fasha's posture relaxed slightly, though she maintained the alertness of a trained warrior. "Because I specialize in contact with lost colonies and diaspora communities. And because I have personal interest in House Var." Something in her tone caught Goku's attention. "You knew my family. I served with your father, Bardock." For the first time, emotion colored her voice. He was a brilliant scientist and strategist before the Civil War claimed him. "When we identified your genetic signature from Nappa's report, I requested this assignment personally." Goku absorbed this information cautiously. Nappa mentioned the Civil War but little else. Unsurprising. He experienced it from the battlefield, not the council chambers. Fasha's eyes revealed centuries of memory. The conflict began as ideological debate. Should Viltrumites rule through dominance as tradition dictated? Or guide through cooperation? When words failed, violence followed. And my father's position? Bardock advocated for evolution beyond conquest. He believed Viltrumite's strength carried responsibility rather than entitlement. Her expression softened. Your mother, Jine, shared his vision. They were among the Reformation's intellectual architects. The mention of his parents, names he'd never known, affected Goku more deeply than expected. Grandfather Gohan had been his only family, the only history he'd known. Why send me away alone? Why not come with me? Pain flashed across Fasha's features. The evacuation was chaos. Your parents remained to cover the escape of multiple ships carrying children and essential knowledge. Their sacrifice allowed 17 vessels to escape. Only 11 eventually reached safe havens. And Nappa, which side was he on? Originally the Empire's elite guard. He defected after witnessing atrocities against civilian populations. Fasha's tone suggested complicated history. His methods remain problematic, but his commitment to preventing the Empire's return is genuine. Goku processed this information, comparing it with what he'd sensed during his confrontation with Nappa. The complexity aligned with his impression of the gruff warrior, damaged but not irredeemable. Why come now, after all these years? Because Nappa's unauthorized mission triggered dormant monitoring systems. When he transmitted confirmation of a pure-blooded Viltrumite on Earth, multiple factions took notice. Fasha's expression grew grave. The Reformation sent me to establish diplomatic contact. Others will have different objectives. The Empire remnants. She nodded. They've been regrouping in the Andromeda sector. A pure-blooded Viltrumite would be valuable to their breeding program, especially one from a prominent scientific lineage. The implications turned Goku's stomach. I have no interest in restoring any empire. I expected as much, given your upbringing. Fasha studied him with newfound respect. Which leads to my primary purpose here. I offer formal recognition of Earth as a protected world under Reformation principles. And invitation for you to serve as its designated guardian with all rights and responsibilities thereof. Guardian. Goku frowned. Earth has its own protectors. Against conventional threats, perhaps. But what comes next will be beyond their capability. She held his gaze steadily. Nappa's confirmation of your existence has accelerated timetables. The Empire will send agents. Other interstellar powers may investigate. Earth needs representation in cosmic affairs. Goku considered her words carefully. And what would this guardian role entail? Training in Viltrumite history, technology, and diplomatic protocols, access to Reformation resources, authority to request assistance when necessary. Fasha gestured toward the sky. Most importantly, Recon, IZED status that prevents legal incursion by other cosmic entities. The earpiece crackled with Debbie's voice. Goku, If she's offering official diplomatic status, this could protect Earth from multiple threats. But we need verification of her authority. As if hearing the communication, Fasha reached into a compartment on her uniform and extracted a small crystalline device. My credentials and authorization, verifiable through multiple security protocols. Your scientists can confirm authenticity. Goku took the offered device cautiously. I'll need time to consider this. And to consult with others. Understandable. The decision affects this entire world. Fasha's expression remained neutral, but her eyes conveyed genuine concern. However, time is limited. My presence here will surely be detected by monitoring systems beyond my control. How long? 3 days, perhaps 4. She glanced skyward. My ship maintains stealth protocols that mask our signatures but extend it. Deployment will trigger automated alerts. Goku nodded decisively. I'll have an answer within that time frame. In the meantime, there are people you should meet, humans who understand the situation. The researchers at the government facility. Fasha asked with surprising specificity. Or perhaps the martial lineage preserving knowledge of our kind for generations. His eyes narrowed. You've been monitoring Earth communications. Basic intelligence gathering before first contact, she confirmed unapologetically. Though your civilization's digital security requires significant improvement before wider cosmic integration. Despite the serious circumstances, Goku found himself appreciating her directness. I'll arrange meetings with both groups. Their input will influence my decision. Fair terms. Fasha extended her arm in formal greeting. Not a handshake but a warrior's clasp, forearm to forearm. Until then, Son Goku, last Saiyan of House Var. As Goku accepted the gesture, he felt the tremendous strength in her grip, carefully controlled, as his own, and recognized a kindred discipline. Whatever else happened, this encounter had changed his understanding of his heritage. The Viltrumites weren't simply conquerors or refugees, their history contained the same complexity as humanity's own. And now that history had found him. Chi-Chi supervised the transfer of ANSI. Ent scrolls to the hidden repository beneath the Western Meditation Garden, her movements efficient despite her troubled thoughts. The most valuable texts, those containing specific information about Viltrumite biology and countermeasures, were secured in specialized containers designed to block energy signatures. Her father's negotiations with the government officials continued in the main hall. Is decades of diplomatic experience buying precious time. Meanwhile, selected students created convincing replicas of less sensitive materials, using techniques passed through generations of Ox Kingdom preservationists. Master Chi-Chi called her senior student, voice low with urgency. Movement at the western perimeter. She straightened immediately, senses sharpening. Security breach. No, the young man hesitated. Son Goku. With a companion, Chi-Chi moved quickly to the nearest window, focusing on the mountain path leading to the compound's western gate. 2 figures approached with the fluid grace of experienced warriors, Goku's familiar silhouette accompanied by a woman whose bearing suggested both power and authority. Alert my father, Chi-Chi instructed. Discreetly, she met them at the gate herself, dressed in formal training attire that doubled as ceremonial and combat wear. Tradition and practicality merged, as was the Ox way. Goku's expression carried a seriousness she hadn't seen before, contrasting with his usually relaxed demeanor. Chi-Chi, he greeted her with respectful formality. This is Commander Fasha of the Viltrumite Reformation. She's come on diplomatic business and brings important information. Chi-Chi assessed the visitor with trained precision. The woman was striking in a way that transcended conventional beauty, features perfect. CTLY proportioned yet distinctly alien in their symmetry, eyes holding wisdom accumulated through centuries rather than decades. Her uniform, though unfamiliar in design, carried the unmistakable function of authority and combat readiness. Welcome to the Ox Kingdom, Chi-Chi said, matching Goku's formality. Though your timing is complicated. Fasha inclined her head with precise respect. The complexity is partly why I'm here. Mistress Chi-Chi, your family's preservation of Viltrumite knowledge represents a historical continuity of immense value. The acknowledgement surprised Chi-Chi. You know of our lineage. The Ox bloodline carries traces of Viltrumite genetics from the peaceful diaspora era, Fasha confirmed. More importantly, You've maintained knowledge that was lost even to us during the Civil War. Goku touched Chi-Chi's arm lightly, drawing her attention. Government officials are here, he said quietly. Debbie warned me. She's stalling them while you secure the scrolls. How did you? Chi-Chi began. I can sense their presence, he explained. Military disciplines have distinctive energy patterns. Fasha observed this exchange with interest. Your energy perception has developed impressively. Kakarot. Most Viltrumites require specific training to distinguish individual signatures at this distance. His name is Goku, Chi-Chi corrected automatically, protective instinct surfacing. The Viltrumite acknowledged this with a small smile. Of course. My apologies. An unspoken communication passed between Chi-Chi and Goku, years of martial training allowing them to share information through subtle signals despite limited acquaintance. She gave an almost imperceptible nod toward the meditation garden, indicating the hidden repository. He responded with the barest shift in stance. Understanding immediately. Commander Fasha comes with diplomatic credentials and warnings about potential threats, Goku explained. We need to speak with your father and Dr. Grayson together, preferably without the military present. Chi-Chi considered their options, decades of Ox Kingdom contingency planning providing immediate solutions. There's an approach, through the eastern gardens that bypasses the main hall. We can reach the inner sanctum without detection. As they moved through the compound, Chi-Chi positioned herself where she could observe both Goku and Fasha. The Viltrumite commander carried herself with the confidence of someone who had seen civilizations rise and fall, yet showed genuine respect for the Ox Kingdom traditions evident in the architecture and gardens they passed. Your preservation methods are impressive, Fasha commented, noting the specialized construction of certain buildings. These materials block energy scanning, a technique developed during the Third Expansion era. I haven't seen it implemented so effectively since visiting the archives on Centauri Prime. My ancestors were thorough in their precautions, Chi-Chi replied cautiously. With good reason. Fasha's voice carried centuries of perspective. The Viltrumites who came to Earth weren't all peaceful scholars. Some were conquerors who saw humans as subjects rather than equals. They reached the inner sanctum, a small, traditional building designed for meditation and high-level instruction. Inside, the Ox King already waited, having received his daughter's message through their student messenger network. His massive frame seemed to fill the modest space, though he knelt in formal posture despite his injuries. Father, Chi-Chi began, this is Commander Fasha of House Talon. The Ox King interrupted, surprising them all. The diplomatic insignia hasn't changed in 800 years, it seems. Fasha's composure briefly faltered. You recognize our house designations. The scrolls are quite specific about the great houses of Viltrum. The Ox King's eyes reflected ancient knowledge. House Talon produced strategists and diploma. TS for 17 generations before the Great Schism. A moment of silence followed this revelation, the implications settling over everyone present. The Ox Kingdom's knowledge of Viltrumite history might be more comprehensive than even the visitors had realized. Where is Dr. Grayson? Goku asked, breaking the tension. Still with the government representatives, the Ox King replied. There, inspecting the public archives under her supervision. Chi-Chi moved to a seemingly solid wall panel and pressed a hidden mechanism. The panel slid aside, revealing a communication system disguised within traditional woodwork. I can have her notified discreetly. Goku shook his head. No need, she's already approaching. At their questioning looks, he explained, I can sense her energy signature moving toward us. Accompanied by two others, military disciplines but not immediately hostile. The Ox King's eyebrows rose appreciatively. Your sensitivity has developed considerably, young man. Minutes later, the door slid open to admit Debbie, followed by General Hayes and Undersecretary Warren. The government officials stopped abruptly upon seeing the gathering, expressions transitioning from surprise to professional caution. Hayes recovered first, hand instinctively moving toward his sidearm before stopping himself. Dr. Grayson, you neglected to mention additional visitors. They arrived after our meeting began. Debbie replied smoothly. I was just notified myself. Fasha rose with fluid grace, her bearing shifting seamlessly into formal diplomatic mode. General Hayes, Undersecretary Warren. I am Commander Fasha, diplomatic representative of the Viltrumite Reformation. Your government has been officially notified through proper channels, though I understand bureaucracy. Processing may have delayed the information reaching your department. The calculated precision of her address, using their correct titles and referencing bureaucratic procedures they would recognize, momentarily disarmed the officials. Hayes recovered first, military training asserting itself. We have no record of diplomatic contact from any entity calling itself the Viltrumite Reformation, he stated firmly. The notification was transmitted 6 hours ago through your United Nations protocols for first contact scenarios, Fasha replied. Given Earth's transitional status in cosmic affairs, we followed both conventional and specialized channels. Warren adjusted his glasses, professional demeanor reasserting itself. Assuming such protocols were indeed followed, what precisely is the purpose of your diplomatic mission? Formal recognition of Earth's protected status under Reformation principles, and establishment of appropriate representation for mutual security interests. Fasha's tone remained perfectly measured. Recent incidents involving unauthorized Viltrumite presence have accelerated our timetable for official contact. Chi-Chi observed the exchange with careful attention, noting how Fasha navigated human diplomatic conventions with practiced ease. Beside her, Goku maintained alert readiness while projecting casual posture, a warrior's discipline she recognized from her own training. Hayes and Warren exchanged glances, decades of government experience evident in their nonverbal communication. This development significantly alters our immediate priorities, Warren acknowledged finally. Commander Fasha, we would request your presence at a properly constituted diplomatic briefing with appropriate authorities. Of course, Fasha agreed. Though I must insist on neutral territory and the presence of Son Goku as Earth's provisional Viltrumite representative. Provisional representative, Hayes repeated, attention shifting to Goku. By whose authority? By right of heritage and demonstrated capability, Fasha explained. Until formal procedures establish permanent arrangements, Kakarot, Son Goku, serves as default guardian for this sector under Reformation protocols. We haven't agreed to any protocols, Hayes pointed out tersely. The alternative, Fasha countered with sudden steel beneath her diplomatic tone, would be Classifica. Qian under standard imperial jurisdiction, which would remove local autonomy entirely. The Reformation offers partnership, other factions in the cosmic community would not be so accommodating. The implied threat hung in the air, its weight enhanced by Fasha's matter-of-fact delivery. This wasn't posturing but simple reality. Earth could accept protection under terms that preserved autonomy or face intervention without representation. Debbie broke the tense silence. Commander Fasha has provided authentication credentials that my team is currently verifying. Preliminary analysis confirms they originate from technology significantly beyond our current capabilities. And you trust this verification? Warren asked skeptically. I trust observable evidence and logical analysis, Debbie replied. The commander could have approached Earth with overwhelming force or covert infiltration. Instead, she followed diplomatic procedures and offered transparent terms. The Ox King leaned forward, his deep voice commanding attention despite his seated position. For generations, my family has preserved knowledge of the stars and those who came from them. The scrolls speak of both conquerors and allies among the Viltrumites. This representative's approach aligns with historical accounts of diplomatic contact rather than imperial subjugation. Hayes studied each person in the room carefully before responding. Assuming verification proceeds positively, we would require 48 hours to assemble appropriate diplomatic personnel. Acceptable, Fasha agreed. During this interim period, I request accommodation at a neutral location with Son Goku serving as liaison. The research facility has appropriate security and monitoring capabilities, Debbie suggested. No, Chi-Chi interjected firmly, surprising everyone. The Ox Kingdom will host both representatives. Our grounds contain specialized areas designed specifically for Viltrumite physiology, and our neutrality in government affairs is well established. All eyes turned to her, including Goku's, his expression showing both surprise and something warmer, perhaps appreciation. Our facility has scientific advantages, Debbie began. And your military has strategic interests, Chi-Chi completed. The Ox Kingdom has preserved balance between cosmic and earthly concerns for 20 generations. We are the appropriate neutral ground. The Ox King smiled slightly, pride evident in his expression. His daughter had grown into her role as heir to their traditions more fully than he had anticipated. The young master speaks wisdom, he affirmed. Our hospitality extends to all parties during negotiations, including scientific observation with appropriate restraint. He fixed Hayes with a pointed look, and military presence at respectful distance. Faced with this united front and the compelling logic of the arrangement, Hayes and Warren reluctantly conceded. Preliminary agreements were established, communications channels defined, and temporary protocols put in place pending formal diplomatic proceedings. As the officials departed to make necessary arrangements, escorted by Debbie and the Ox King, Ch. Ikai found herself momentarily alone with Goku and Fasha in the inner sanctum. The Viltrumite commander studied the ancient scrolls visible on wall displays with evident interest. These calligraphy techniques, Fasha observed, they incorporate microquantum harmonics within the ink composition. Remarkable preservation method. My ancestors understood the importance of keeping knowledge alive through ages, Chi-Chi replied. Watching her carefully, including knowledge some might prefer forgotten. Fasha turned, meeting her gaze directly. You refer to Viltrumite vulnerabilities documented in your archives. Among other things, a wise precaution, Fasha acknowledged without offense. Power unchecked by accountability becomes tyranny, a lesson my people learned at tremendous cost. Goku, who had remained unusually quiet during the political discussions, finally spoke. You mentioned my father was a scientist. What exactly did he study? The question seemed to catch Fasha off guard. Her composed diplomatic demeanor softened into something more personal. Bardock specialized in evolutionary biology and energy manipulation. His theories about controlled cellular adaptation RMED the foundation for the Reformation's approach to diverse environments. A genuine smile touched her lips. He would be fascinated by how you've developed without formal training. And my mother, Goku pressed, hunger for knowledge evident in his voice. Jine was a cultural historian and combat instructor, an unusual combination that made her particularly effective in diplomatic missions to warrior cultures. Fasha's eyes held centuries of memory. You have her adaptability and his focused intensity. Chi-Chi observed this exchange with mixed emotions. The connection between Goku and Fa. Sha transcended mere diplomatic interaction. They shared a cultural heritage and possibly even personal history through Fasha's connection to his parents. A complex feeling stirred within Chi-Chi, something protective yet uncertain. The guest quarters will be prepared shortly, she said, perhaps more abruptly than intended. Commander, you'll be accommodated in the Eastern Pavilion. Goku, you're us. UAL rooms in the student wing are available. Fasha inclined her head with perfect courtesy. Your hospitality honors the finest traditions of both our peoples, Mistress Chi-Chi. As they exited the sanctum, Chi-Chi found Goku falling into step beside her, matching his pace to hers with unconscious synchronization. Thank you, he said quietly, for offering your home as neutral ground. It's the right solution. The Ox Kingdom has always stood between worlds, she replied, her formal tone softening slightly. It's our purpose to preserve balance. Still, Goku insisted, you've taken on additional risk by hosting us. If other Viltrumites come looking, then we'll face them together, Chi-Chi stated with simple certainty. As our ancestors did before us. The words emerged without premeditation. Yet as they hung in the air between them, Chi-Chi realized their significance. Not a diplomatic alliance or temporary arrangement, but a declaration of shared purpose that transcended formal boundaries. Goku's expression shifted, understanding dawning in his eyes. Before he could respond, a student approached with urgent news, and the moment passed, but something fundamental had changed between them. As surely as if a formal pact had been declared before witnesses. Whatever came next, they would indeed face it together. The laboratory hummed with energy as Debbie Caleb rated sensitive equipment around the reinforced examination chamber. Through triple-layered transparent aluminum, she observed Goku and Fasha demonstrating Viltrumite abilities for the assembled scientific team. The government officials had departed hours earlier, leaving technical staff to document the historic encounter. Energy output exceeding predicted parameters, reported her assistant, Mo. Monitoring displays showing multicolored data streams. Both subjects maintaining consistent molecular stability despite accelerated particle interactions. Adjust the quantum field dampeners, Debbie instructed. Match resonance to their baseline frequency. Within the chamber, Goku and Fasha hovered several feet above the floor, engaged in what appeared to be a martial arts demonstration but Fu. NCTIONED is a comprehensive display of Viltrumite capabilities. Each movement generated energy signatures that the laboratory equipment struggled to measure, not just physical power but something more fundamental. Energy manipulation at the cellular level. Remarkable, murmured Drive. Chen, the quantum physics specialist. They're not just moving quickly, they're actually manipulating localized time-space fields around their bodies. That's how they achieve apparent superspeed without generating destructive shockwaves, Debbie confirmed. Their cells create microscopic envelopes of altered physics. The demonstration concluded as Fasha and Goku returned to normal standing positions, their controlled descent as graceful as dancers completing a performance. Neither showed signs of exertion despite movement speeds that had stretched the limits of recording equipment. I believe that covers the basic capabilities your scientists requested, Fasha said through the communication system. I should emphasize these represent fundamental abilities rather than our full potential. Full potential? Chen questioned, professional curiosity overwhelming diplomatic caution. Viltrumite. Physiology continues developing throughout our extended lifespans, she explained. Capabilities compound with experience and necessity. What you've witnessed represents standard training outcomes rather than evolutionary maximums. Debbie made final adjustments to recording equipment before opening the chamber doors. The data we've gathered today will revolutionize multiple scientific disciplines, she acknowledged. Thank you both for your cooperation. As technicians began processing the massive data streams, Debbie led Goku and Fasha to the facility's conference room where refreshments awaited. The three sat in momentary silence, the weight of historical significance settling over them. Your scientists adapt quickly to paradigm-shifting information, Fasha observed, sampling a glass of water with analytical interest. An evolutionary advantage that serves humanity well. Necessity drives adaptation, Debbie replied. Earth history is filled with civilizations that failed to adjust to new realities. A universal constant, Fasha agreed. Her attention shifted to Goku, who had been uncharacteristically contemplative throughout the demonstrations. You're troubled by something. He looked up, momentarily surprised by her perception. Just processing everything. A month ago, I thought I was alone, possibly the last of my kind. Now I'm learning about my parents, my heritage, cosmic politics. And your responsibilities, Fasha completed gently. The burden of representing two worlds. Debbie watched this exchange with scientific and personal interest. Despite her professional detachment, she'd developed genuine concern for Goku since their first meeting at the tournament. His situation, caught between worlds, suddenly bearing tremendous responsibility, resonate. With her own experience navigating between scientific truth and government agendas. The diplomatic meeting tomorrow will establish formal protocols, Debbie said. But practically speaking, what old Goku's role as Earth's guardian actually entail? Fasha considered the question carefully. Protection from external threats beyond Earth's current defensive capabilities. Representation in SMIC councils when Earth's interests are discussed. Cultural exchange to prepare humanity for eventual wider integration into the galactic community. That sounds more like an ambassador than a guardian, Debbie noted. The title reflects Viltrumite tradition, Fasha explained. Historically, we assigned guardians to worlds of special interest, originally as military governors, later as protective stewards. The Reformation has preserved the title while transforming its meaning. Goku leaned forward, elbows on the table. You mentioned training I would need. What kind specifically? Historical context, diplomatic protocols, advanced energy manipulation techniques, cosmic navigation. Fasha's expression softened slightly, and connection to your heritage, the cultural knowledge your NTS would have shared had circumstances been different. Something vulnerable flickered in Goku's eyes, a glimpse of the child who had grown up without knowledge of his origins, guided only by an adoptive grandfather's wisdom. Debbie felt a surprising pang of empathy, recognizing his hunger for belonging beneath the capable exterior. Would this training require leaving Earth? She asked, voicing the concern Goku himself seemed reluctant to articulate. Some aspects would benefit from specialized environments, Fasha acknowledged. However, we recognize your connection to this world and its people. Arrangements could incorporate both local and off-world components. Goku nodded, relief evident in his posture. And Chi-Chi's father mentioned Viltrumite vulnerabilities documented in their scrolls. Is that information accurate? Quote. Fasha's expression grew serious. Distressingly so. The Ox archives contain knowledge preserved from the Third Expansion era, including countermeasures developed by resistance movements on various worlds. Some techniques specifically target Viltrumite cellular structures. You don't seem concerned about humans possessing such knowledge, Debbie observed. The Reformation believes accountability creates balance, Fasha replied simply. If we ask worlds to trust us as guardians, we must accept their right to defend themselves should that trust be violated. The conference room door opened to admit a security officer with urgent expression. Dr. Grayson, we've detected an unauthorized access attempt in the primary database. The intrusion originated from satellites not registered to any known Earth agency. Debbie stood immediately, professional alertness replacing conversation. Containment protocols, automated systems engaged, but the attack vector keeps shifting. It's like nothing we've encountered before. Fasha and Goku exchanged knowing glances. It appears our timetable has been accelerated, the Viltrumite commander stated, rising smoothly. The Empire's reconnaissance systems have detected my presence sooner than anticipated. We should return to the Ox Kingdom immediately, Goku said, already moving toward the door. If they're scanning for Viltrumite signatures, both locations could be targeted. Agreed. Fasha turned to Debbie. Doctor, I recommend immediate isolation of your most sensitive research. The scanning technology they're employing can extract data through most conventional security systems. Debbie's mind raced through implications and protocols. We have quantum-isolated storage for critical files. I'll initiate emergency lockdown. As alarms began sounding throughout the facility, Debbie led them through restricted corridors to the central security hub. Technicians worked frantically at tear. Meow's wild defensive systems engaged automatically, sealing sensitive areas and redirecting data flows. The intrusion pattern suggests Thonogarian technology, Fasha observed, studying the security displays. The Empire has been forming alliances with advanced technological species to compensate for their reduced numbers. Can you block it? Debbie asked, authorizing emergency countermeasures with her biometric signature. Temporarily, Fasha replied, fingers moving across a communication device from her uniform. My ship's defensive systems can generate interference patterns that will disrupt their scanning frequencies. The security displays stabilized as invisible electronic warfare played out through orbital systems. Warning indicators shifted from critical to cautionary levels as the immediate threat receded. That won't hold them for long, Fasha warned. They'll adjust parameters and resume scanning within hours. Goku, who had been monitoring the situation with focused attention, turned to Debbie. We need to warn Chi-Chi and her father. If they're targeting Viltrumite signatures, the Ox Kingdom's archives will be priority objectives. I'll arrange immediate transport, Debbie began. But Goku shook his head. Too slow. He moved toward the exit. Fasha and I can fly there directly. Wait. Debbie hurried to a secure locker and retrieved a specialized communication device. Take this. It's hardened against most interference patterns and will keep us connected if standard communications are compromised. Goku accepted it with a nod of thanks. As he and Fasha prepared to depart, Debbie found herself hesitating, scientific detachment momentarily overwhelmed by personal concern. Be careful, she said quietly. Both of you. Something in spoken passé, between them, acknowledgement of a connection that had evolved beyond professional collaboration into genuine alliance, perhaps even friendship. Goku smiled, the expression transforming his warrior's focus into warm reassurance. We will secure your research, then join us at the Ox Kingdom when you can. Whatever's coming, we'll face it together. As they departed, Debbie turned back to the Chris is unfolding in her facility, yet found herself momentarily distracted by the implications of Goku's words. Not just the immediate tactical situation, but the deeper meaning, Earth's first official extraterrestrial alliance. Formed not through governmental protocols but personal connections and shared purpose. History was unfolding around her, and she was no longer merely documenting it but actively participating in its creation. Night had fallen over the Ox Kingdom by the time Goku and Fasha arrived, the compound illuminated by traditional lanterns that cast warm light across ancient architecture. Despite the peaceful appearance, Goku sensed heightened alertness among the students patrolling the perimeter. Chi-Chi had clearly recognized potential danger and implemented appropriate precautions. They landed in the central courtyard where Chi-Chi awaited them, dressed in traditional combat attire. The formal robes from earlier had been replaced with practical garments designed for maximum mobility while maintaining ceremonial significance, the Ox Kingdom's balance of tradition and functionality embodied in cloth and leather. We detected unusual energy patterns in the upper atmosphere. She informed them without preamble. Father recognized the signatures from historical records. Imperial scanning protocols. Fasha nodded grimly. They've found us sooner than expected. The research facility experienced data intrusion attempts from the same source. Then we have little time, Chi-Chi said, leading them toward the inner sanctum. Father has activated the compound's defensive systems and moved critical scrolls to secure vaults. The Ox King awaited them in a chamber Goku hadn't seen before, a tactical room hidden beneath the main house, its walls covered with both ancient maps and modern monitoring equipment. The marriage of tradition and technology reflected the Ox Kingdom's true nature, not merely a martial arts school but a sentinel organization maintaining vigil across generations. Commander Fasha, the Ox King greeted her formally. It seems your diplomatic mission has attracted Imperial attention. An anticipated complication, though the timing is unfortunate, she acknowledged. My ship's systems are generating interference patterns, but they'll penetrate eventually. What exactly are they looking for? Goku asked. Beyond confirming Viltrumite presence, strategic information, Fasha explained. Population centers, defensive capabilities, power generation facilities, standard Imperial reconnaissance preceding potential occupation. The Ox King nodded gravely. The scrolls describe similar patterns before interventions on other worlds. First reconnaissance, then targeted strikes against leadership and infrastructure. We need to accelerate the diplomatic proceedings. Fasha decided. Formal recognition under Reformation protection would deter immediate Imperial action. The government officials won't reconvene until tomorrow afternoon, Chi-Chi pointed out. And they seemed skeptical of extraterrestrial diplomatic protocols to begin with. Goku studied the tactical displays showing atmospheric disturbances above their region, evidence of the invisible conflict between scanning systems and Fasha's countermeasures. Time was clearly limited, yet rushing unprepared into formal procedures carried its own risks. What if we approach this differently? He suggested. Instead of waiting for governmental processes, we establish facts they'll have to acknowledge. All eyes turned to him questioningly. Explain, the Ox King prompted. Fasha's ship has communication capabilities beyond Earth technology, correct? When she nodded, Goku continued. And the Reformation maintains monitoring stations throughout this sector. Correct again, Fasha confirmed. Beginning to understand his direction. You're suggesting we bypass Earth's diplomatic infrastructure and establish direct connection with Reformation authorities. Exactly. Goku turned to the Ox King. Your scrolls contain protocols for formal alliance declarations between Earth lineages and cosmic entities. They would have legal standing in wider galactic frameworks, even if current Earth governments don't recognize them yet. Chi-Chi studied him with newfound appreciation. The ancestral compact provisions, they haven't been invoked for 8 generations, but remain valid under preservation statutes. The Ox King stroked his beard thoughtfully. Elegant solution. The Ox Kingdom's historical status as designated Earth representative for extraterrestrial matters predates modern governmental structures. We could formalize protection agreements that would be recognized by cosmic authorities regardless of contemporary political alignments, which would force Earth governments to either acknowledge the arrangements or forfeit their position in negotiations entirely, Fasha concluded, impressed by the strategy. Bardock would approve of your approach, Kaka, Goku. The slip into his birth name went unremarked as they developed the plan further. The Ox King retrieved ceremonial scrolls documenting the ancestral compact while Chi-Chi prepared the formal hall for proceedings that hadn't been conducted in centuries. Fasha established communication with her ship, instructing its systems to prepare transmission channels to Reformation headquarters. As preparations continued, Goku found himself momentarily alone with Chi-Chi in the scroll repository, helping her select appropriate historical documents for the ceremony. Your knowledge of our traditions is impressive, she noted, carefully placing an ancient text in a ceremonial container. especially for someone who only learned of them weeks ago. Goku carefully lifted a sealed case containing fragile manuscripts. Your father shared some scrolls during my visits. I found them familiar, somehow. As if I'd seen the concepts before. Cellular memory, Chi-Chi suggested. The scrolls theorize that Viltrumites carry ancestral knowledge in their genetic structure, not complete information but resonance with certain concepts and patterns. Like instinctively knowing how to fly once I'd seen it demonstrated. Goku realized, or recognizing the temple inscriptions. Chi-Chi nodded, her movements precise yet graceful as she organized materials. The connections Betway, and your people and mine go back further than written history. The Ox lineage may carry diluted Viltrumite genetics, but more importantly, we preserved knowledge when others forgot. Something in her tone caught Goku's attention, pride in her heritage mixed with determination to honor its responsibilities. He found himself appreciating not just her physical capabilities as a warrior but the depth of her commitment to something larger than herself. Thank you, he said suddenly. She looked up, surprised. For what? For preserving knowledge that helps me understand who I am. For accepting what I am without fear or judgment. Goku's customary directness carried genuine emotion. For treating me as a person first, not just a potential asset or threat. Chi-Chi's expression softened momentarily, revealing vulnerability beneath her disciplined exterior. You proved yourself through actions, not words. The way you protected my father despite knowing nothing about us, that revealed your true character. Their eyes held for a moment longer than necessary, something unspoken passing between them. Before either could address it, the Ox King's voice called from the adjacent chamber, breaking the moment. Chi-Chi, we're ready for the ceremonial preparations. She collected herself immediately, warrior's discipline reasserting itself. We should join them. The compact invocation requires precise timing with astronomical alignments. As they moved toward the ceremonial hall, Goku found himself increasingly aware of Chi-Chi's presence beside him, the controlled strength in her movements. The intelligence behind her dark eyes, the unwavering commitment to her responsibilities. Though raised in different worlds, they shared fundamental values that transcended cultural differences. The ceremonial hall had been transformed in their absence, ancient symbols activated through methods combining technology and traditional practices. The Ox King stood at its center, ceremonial R.O.B's enhancing his already impressive stature, while Fasha waited in formal Viltrumite diplomatic attire provided by her ship's synthesizers. The alignment approaches, the Ox King announced. Take our positions according to the ancient forms. What followed was unlike anything Goku had experienced, a ceremony combining precise astronomical calculations, formal declarations in multiple languages, and energy manipulations that activated dormant systems within the Ox Kingdom's very foundations. As Earth's guardian lineage, the Ox family invoked protections established millennia ago when the RST peaceful Viltrumites had sought sanctuary on the planet. Chi-Chi's role involved channeling energy through ceremonial instruments while reciting declarations in an ancient language Goku somehow understood despite never having learned it. The Ox King served as primary invoker, his deep voice resonating with authority that seemed to extend beyond the physical realm. Fasha and Goku represented Viltrumite interests. She is Reformation envoy, he as designated guardian with lineage connections to both worlds. The ceremony acknowledged his dual nature, not as divided loyalty but as living bridge between civilizations. As the ritual reached its culmination, Fasha activated a device that projected a holographic representation of Reformation authorities, elder Viltrumites whose bearing suggest both tremendous power and ancient wisdom. They witnessed the final declarations, adding their acknowledgement in formal language that established binding cosmic recognition. When the ceremony concluded, something fundamental had changed, not just in diplomatic terms but in the energy patterns surrounding the compound. Ancient systems had awakened, establishing protections that transcended conventional defenses. It is done, the Ox King declared solemnly. Earth is now formally recognized as under Reformation protection, with Son Goku acknowledged as its designated guardian and the Ox King as historical custodian of compact provisions. Fasha checked readings on her communication device. Confirmation received and propagating through official channels. The compact registration has been recorded in multiple repositories across 16 systems. Will it stop the Empire? Chi-Chi asked practically. Not permanently, Fasha acknowledged. But it creates significant diplomatic obstacles to direct intervention. They would risk unified response from multiple cosmic authorities by violating registered protection status. Goku sensed the change in atmospheric energy before the Allah. RMS sounded. A disturbance too precise to be natural, too powerful to be terrestrial technology. Something's entered the atmosphere, he warned. Directly above us. Fasha's device confirmed his assessment. Imperial scout craft. They've penetrated my ship's interference field. Her expression hardened. Faster than anticipated. They must have deployed enhanced technology. The Ox King moved immediately to a control panel disguised within traditional architectural elements. Compound shields activating. All students to defensive positions as practiced. Throughout the complex, hidden technologies activated, some ancient in design. Others incorporating modern adaptations. Energy fields shimmered into existence around critical structures while students moved with disciplined precision to predetermined positions. Chi-Chi retrieved ceremonial weapons that functioned as both symbolic items and practical armaments. Father, the vault containment fields. Engaged and stable, he confirmed. Critical knowledge is secure. Goku and Fasha exchanged determined looks. We should intercept them before they reach the compound, Goku suggested. Draw them away from civilians. Agreed, Fasha replied, already moving toward the exit. Though we should anticipate advanced weaponry specifically designed against Viltrumite physiology. Before they could depart, Chi-Chi stepped forward, presenting Goku with a weapon unlike any he'd seen, a staff inscribed with symbols similar to those from his arrival pod, its material neither fully metal nor stone but something that resonated with his own energy. This was preserved for generations, she explained quickly. Created during the third expansion era for Viltrumite guardians who chose Earth as their home. It amplifies innate energy manipulation capabilities. Goku accepted it with appropriate reverence, feeling immediate connection as the weapon adjusted to his specific energy signature. Thank you. I'll honor its purpose. See that you do, Chi-Chi replied, her formal tone belied by the concern in her eyes. And return it personally when this is finished. The implied command, to survive and return, hung between them momenta. Wryly before Goku nodded his acknowledgement. Words seemed inadequate for what both felt but neither had time to express. As Goku and Fasha departed, launching skyward with controlled power, Chi-Chi turned to her father's side to coordinate the compound's defenses. The Ox Kingdom had prepared for this possibility for generations, the return of Imperial Viltrumites seeking to reclaim Earth as conquered territory. Now theory would be tested against reality, and ancient preparations would face modern threats. The night sky above them erupted with energy discharges as the first confrontation began. Bright flashes illuminating clouds from within like captured lightning. The battle for Earth's future had commenced, with Son Goku standing as its designated guardian, not by governmental appointment or military authority, but by heritage, choice, and the formal recognition of powers beyond human understanding. Whatever the outcome, nothing would be the same again. Chapter 2 and Chapter 3, The Weight of Legacy. The atmosphere ignited around them as they ascended, friction-borne flames licking harmlessly across Viltrumite's skin. Goku clutched the ancient staff Chi-Chi had entrusted him with, feeling its resonance intensify as they approached the stratosphere. Beside him, Fasha moved with military precision, her centuries of experience evident in every calculated movement. 3 vessels, she called over the rushing wind, gesturing toward rapidly descending lights above them. Scout class, minimal crew. Vanguard for potential larger force. Goku nodded, accessing new instincts that seemed to awaken daily within him. He could sense the ships now, their energy signatures distinct from Earth technology, pulsing with aggressive intent. The sensation triggered something primal in his cells, a response he hadn't anticipated. Exhilaration, anticipation, hunger for combat. The reaction disturbed him even as it sharpened his senses. Was this the Viltrumite nature Nappa had referenced? The warrior's call to violence that had driven their empire's expansion? Focus, Fasha commanded, reading his expression with veteran insight. Channel it, don't suppress it. Viltrumite combat instinct is a tool, not a master. They halted their ascent at 40,000 feet, hovering in the thin air where most Earth aircraft couldn't operate effectively. The Imperial ships adjusted course immediately upon detecting them. Formation tightening into attack configuration. Standard Imperial protocol, Fasha noted. They'll attempt capture rather than elimination. Your genetic profile would be valuable to their breeding program. The casual way she referenced such violations sent ice through Goku's veins, temporarily countering the battle hunger. What's our strategy? Disable. Don't destroy, she replied. Eyes tracking the approaching vessels. We need intelligence on their capabilities and numbers. The lead ship fired first. Not conventional projectiles but a shimmering net of energy that expanded rapidly as it approached. Goku and Fasha separated instantly, years of combat training allowing them to move in perfect coordination despite never having fought together before. Molecular disruption field, Fasha called, executing a precise evasive pattern. Designed to destabilize Viltrumite cellular cohesion. Don't let it touch you. Goku twisted midair, the staff in his NDS suddenly humming with activated power. Acting on instinct rather than training, he swept it through an arc that intersected the energy field. Where they connected, the net dispersed into harmless particles. Its cohesion disrupted by the weapon's counter frequency. The staff, he realized aloud, it's specifically designed against Imperial technology. No time for further analysis as the remaining ships launched their own attacks. Energy pulses from port and starboard weapons systems creating a crossfire pattern difficult to evade in three-dimensional space. Fasha moved with blurring speed, transitioning between attack vectors while calling instructions. The ventral stabilizers are their weakness, she shouted, indicating points beneath each vessel. Impact with sufficient force will disrupt their navigational systems. Goku adjusted his grip on the staff, feeling it respond to his intentions like an extension of his body. The weapon's design incorporated knowledge of Viltrumite capabilities, amplifying rather than restricting his natural strengths. As he accelerated toward the nearest ship, time seemed to slow around him, a perceptual shift allowing for combat processing at superhuman speeds. The vessel's defensive systems tracked his approach, energy weapons charging for point-blank discharge. Instead of evading, Goku drove directly toward the concentrated firepower, bringing the staff forward at the last possible moment. The ancient weapon absorbed the energy blast, converting it into a field that briefly surrounded Goku like armor. He struck the ship's underside with calculated force, enough to damage systems without breaching the hull. Metal crumpled beneath his impact, internal components shorting out in cascading failure. The vessel listed to one side, Urgency systems engaging as primary controls failed. Across the battlefield, Fasha executed a more elegant but equally effective assault on the second vessel, using precision strikes to disable weapons systems without endangering the crew. Her movements displayed centuries of combat experience, economical, precise, and devastatingly effective. The lead ship, witnessing the rapid neutralization of its escorts, initiated what appeared to be a retreat maneuver, engines flaring with emergency thrust. Goku moved to pursue, but Fasha's warning stopped him. Wait, it's not retreating. Her warning came too late as the vessel suddenly reversed thrust and expanded into a brilliant sphere of energy, not an explosion but a deployed containment field that engulfed Goku before he could change direction. Inside the field, his movements instantly slowed, muscles fighting against microscopic resistance that multiplied with each exertion. Molecular density inhibitor, Fasha called, racing toward THE ship but maintaining distance from the field. Stop fighting it. The resistance increases proportionally to effort. Goku forced himself to relax despite every instinct screaming for action. The field constricted around him, drawing him toward the vessel's open cargo hold where mechanical arms waited to secure him. The staff in his hands flickered with diminishing energy, its power seemingly neutralized by the containment technology. Below, the Ox Kingdom compound shimmered with activated defensive systems, ancient technologies interfacing with modern adaptations to create a fortress impervious to conventional scanning. Within those protections, Chi-Chi and her father would be monitoring the battle, perhaps already implementing contingency plans. The thought of Chi-Chi, her unwavering dedication, her trust in providing him the ancient weapon, sparked something beyond Viltrumite battle instinct. A different kind of determination took hold, focused not on combat for its own sake but on protection, on honoring commitment. On returning as promised, the staff responded to this shift in his emotional state, its dormant inscription suddenly glowing with renewed energy. Goku ceased physical struggle entirely, instead focusing inward as grandfather Gohan had taught him, finding the center point where intention became action without passing through effort. When he opened his eyes, his staff had transformed, no longer a simple weapon but a conduit channeling energy that disrupted the containment field from within. The molecular inhibitor faltered as contradicting frequencies interfered with its operation. "Now, Goku!" Fasha shouted, recognizing the momentary disruption. He burst from the weakened field with explosive force, the staff fully activated in his hands. Rather than attacking the ship directly, he struck the generator projecting the containment field, causing a cascade failure that disabled multiple systems simultaneously. All three Imperial vessels now hung disabled in the stratosphere, their crews trapped within sophisticated technology rendered temporarily useless. Fasha approached the lead ship, interfacing her communication device with their systems to prevent distress signals from reaching potential reinforcements. "Efficient work," she acknowledged, studying Goku with professional assessment. "Your adaptation rate exceeds standard Viltrumite parameters. Particularly impressive with unfamiliar technology." Goku examined the staff with newfound appreciation for its creators. "Not unfamiliar," he corrected. "The inscriptions match patterns from my arrival pod. I think this may have belonged to my father, or someone from his lineage." Fasha's expression revealed genuine surprise, a rare break in her diplomatic composure. "House Var markings," she confirmed, examining the staff more closely. Bardock's research division developed numerous counter-technologies during the Civil War. This appears to be a prototype never mass-produced before Viltrum's fragmentation. The disabled ships began automatic descent protocols, their emergency systems guiding them toward unpopulated landing zones pre-programmed into their navigation computers. Standard Imperial procedure to preserve assets even in defeat. "We should secure the crews before they can activate secondary systems," Fasha suggested, already moving toward the nearest vessel. Goku followed, but something drew his attention skyward, a sensation beyond normal perception, energy patterns too subtle for instruments but unmistakable to his developing senses. "There's something else up there," he warned. "Much larger, holding position beyond detection range." Fasha paused, extending her own senses while checking readings on her communication device. Confirmed. Capital-class vessel maintaining stationary orbit. These scouts were merely preliminary assessment. So this wasn't an actual attack, Goku realized. Just reconnaissance. Standard Imperial procedure when approaching protected worlds. She explained. Test defenses with expendable assets before committing significant resources. The implications settled heavily upon him. This wasn't an isolated incident, but the beginning of a calculated campaign. The weight of Earth's protection, officially his responsibility under the newly formalized compact, pressed against his shoulders with sudden tangibility. "We need to alert the Ox Kingdom and Dr. Grayson's facility," he decided. This was just the first move in a longer game. Chi-Chi felt the impact before hearing it, a resonant vibration through the compound's ancient foundations as defensive systems absorbed energy from the upper atmosphere. The command center's displays showed 3 disabled vessels making controlled descent toward unpopulated areas within the mountain range. "Preliminary engagement successful," reported her senior student, monitoring communication channels. "No casualties detected. Imperial craft disabled but structurally intact." The Ox King nodded approval, his massive hands steady as they manipulated controls embedded within traditional designs. Containment teams deployed to designated interception points. Full ISO. Lashin protocols for any recovered technology or personnel. Chi-Chi studied the tactical display where Goku and Fasha's energy signatures remained in the upper atmosphere, apparently engaged in discussion rather than immediate pursuit of the descending vessels. Something had changed in the battle dynamic, a new development not yet apparent on their monitoring systems. "Father," she said quietly, "the ancestral sensors are detecting anomalies beyond standard orbital parameters." The Ox King turned to a secondary display where ancient technology, preserved and maintained through generations, owed energy patterns invisible to conventional scanning. A massive signature lurked at the edge of detection range, its presence obscured by advanced cloaking systems. "Capital ship," he confirmed grimly, "maintaining observation position while assessing our defensive capabilities." The realization shifted their tactical situation significantly. What had appeared a successful defense now reveal. D itself is merely the opening gambit in a more complex engagement. The Imperial forces had sacrificed scouts to evaluate response patterns, gather intelligence on defensive capabilities, and identify key combatants. Alert all outposts, the Ox King instructed. Activate the secondary barrier array and begin evacuation of non-essential personnel to the mountain shelters. As students hurried to implement these orders, Chi-Chi moved to a specialized communication system designed to interface with Viltrumite technology. Moments later, Goku's voice filled the command center, transmission quali. Tie perfect despite atmospheric interference. Chi-Chi, are you receiving? Clearly, she confirmed. We've detected the capital ship in high orbit. Defensive systems are at full capacity. We're securing the scout crews now, he reported. Fasha believes this was primarily an assessment mission, not a genuine attack. Agreed. Father is implementing containment protocols for the disabled vessels. Do you need extraction support for prisoners? A brief pause suggested consultation with Fasha before Goku responded. Negative. Fasha has neutralization technology sufficient for the small crews. We'll rendezvous at the compound in approximately 30 minutes. Chi-Chi acknowledged, ending transmission with practiced efficiency. Years of training in crisis management allowed her to function with perfect composure despite the gravity of their situation. Earth's first official engagement with hostile extraterrestrial forces, with the Ox Kingdom serving as central command rather than governmental military. Dr. Grayson's transport has cleared the mountain pass, reported a student monitoring perimeter sensors. ETA 12 minutes. Escort her directly to the tactical center upon arrival, the Ox King instructed. Her scientific expertise will be valuable in analyzing recovered technology. Chi-Chi noted her father's increasing reliance on her operational decisions, not an abdication of authority but a recognition of her readiness to assume greater leadership. The Ox legacy had always passed from master to most qualified successor, regardless of age or seniority. Recent events had accelerated this transition, her father's injuries from Nappa's attack serving as catalyst for her advancement. Father, she said with careful respect, I believe we should implement the 7th protocol regarding the ancestral archives. The Ox King turned to her with raised eyebrows, recognizing the significance of her suggestion. The 7th protocol hadn't been activated in 3GE. Narrations. Not since the Second World War when Axis powers had sought ancient weapons within the kingdom's repositories. You believe the threat warrants such measures? Imperial Viltrumites destroy their own homeworld rather than accept defeat, she reminded him. Their technological capabilities exceed our defensive parameters by considerable margins. If they penetrate our primary systems, ancestral knowledge must remain secure at all costs. He studied her for a long moment before nodding agreement. Proceed with implementation. Select only the most trusted disciples for transport assignments. The 7th protocol involved dispersing crucial archives to multiple hidden locations throughout the global network of martial lineages connected to the Ox tradition. No single repository would contain complete knowledge, preventing catastrophic loss should any location be compromised. The system had preserved their heritage through centuries of conflict and upheaval. As Chi-Chi issued necessary orders, the tactical display updated to show Debbie's armored transport approaching the compound's main gate. Government resources had been allocated to her research division following formal notification of extraterrestrial contact, including military-grade vehicles and security personnel. Curious timing, the Ox King noted. The doctor arrives precisely as Imperial forces test our defenses. Coincidence? Chi-Chi suggested, though her tone indicated skepticism. Perhaps, he stroked his beard thoughtfully. Or perhaps Earth governments have their own surveillance systems, more advanced than they've acknowledged. This possibility had occurred to Chi-Chi as well. Despite Debbie's apparent sincerity, she represented governmental interests that might not align perfectly with the Ox Kingdom's historical mission or Goku's complex position between worlds. I'll handle the diplomatic interface, Chi-Chi decided. You coordinate defense systems and archive protocols. The Ox King nodded approval, pride evident beneath his warrior's composure. You've grown into your responsibilities more quickly than I anticipated, daughter. Necessity accelerates development, she replied. unconsciously echoing Debbie's earlier observation to Fasha. Current circumstances leave little room for gradual transition. As she departed the command center, Chi-Chi felt the weight of 20 generations pressing upon her shoulders, ancestors who had maintained vigilance against threats beyond human comprehension, preserving knowledge while preparing defenses that might never be needed in their lifetimes. Now, in her generation, those ancient preparations faced their ultimate test. She met Debbie's transport at the inner courtyard, where enhanced security measures had RMED the traditional space into a fortified position. Students in ceremonial combat attire that concealed advanced protective equipment maintained disciplined formation, their training transcending martial arts to encompass aspects of both military precision and spiritual focus. Debbie emerged from the vehicle accompanied by 4 specialists carrying equipment cases bearing government insignia. Her expression combined professional determination with genuine concern as she approached Chi-Chi. The satellite network detected energy discharges consistent with advanced weapons systems, she stated without preamble. Confirmed Viltrumite engagement. Chi-Chi appreciated the direct approach, responding in kind. Imperial scout vessels testing defensive capabilities. Goku and Commander Fasha neutralized the immediate threat. But we've detected a capital ship maintaining orbit beyond conventional detection range. If Debbie was surprised by the Ox Kingdom's advanced monitoring capabilities, she concealed it well. My team brought specialized analysis equipment for captured technology. Has any been secured? Recovery teams are en route to 3 crash sites. Preliminary containment established. Chi-Chi led them toward the tactical center, maintaining professional distance despite the developing alliance between their factions. We've implemented the Ancestral Compact protocols as formalized yesterday. The Ox Kingdom now serves as Earth's official coordination center for this engagement. The Pentagon won't appreciate that claim, Debbie noted with practical realism. Pentagon wasn't recognized by cosmic authorities dating back 12,000 years, Chi-Chi countered smoothly. We acknowledge modern governmental authority in appropriate contexts, but this situation invokes older provisions. Rather than arguing jurisdiction, Debbie focused on practical cooperation. My team includes specialists in quantum mechanics, xenobiology, and advanced materials science. Where can we establish an analysis station? The Eastern Laboratory has been prepared for your equipment, Chi-Chi informed her, appreciating the pragmatic approach. It connects directly to Tactical Center while maintaining specialized containment fields for potentially hazardous technology. They reached the central compound where activity had intensified, students moving with purpose between positions. Ancient defenses humming with activated energy, modern equipment interfacing with traditional designs in harmonious function. The Ox Kingdom had prepared for this moment through centuries of vigilance. Preserving knowledge while adapting methodologies to evolving threats. Impressive integration, Debbie observed, professional assessment evident as she studied the compound's defensive systems. Your technological capabilities exceed what's documented in government records. Many things about the Ox Kingdom exceed official documentation, Chi-Chi replied simply. Just as, your research division likely maintains capabilities beyond public knowledge. The mutual acknowledgement of hidden depths established a foundation for cooperation based on practical necessity rather than complete disclosure. Neither fully trusted the other, yet both recognized the value of alliance against common threat. As Debbie's team established their equipment in the designated laboratory, Chi-Chi received notification of Goku and Fasha's approach. She met them at the specialized landing area where energy dampening fields prevented detection of incoming Viltrumite signatures. They arrived with precision, carrying secured containers that presumably held neutralized Imperial personnel. Despite the successful engagement, Goku's expression showed troubled focus rather than victory's satisfaction. Something during the confrontation had affected him beyond tactical concerns. The prisoners are unconscious but stable, Fasha reported professionally. Standard Imperial scout crew, 2 pilots, 1 tactical officer per vessel. Mid-level personnel without significant strategic knowledge. Still valuable for intelligence gathering, Chi-Chi noted, directing support staff to transfer the containers to secure holding facilities. Dr. Grayson's team has established analysis capabilities for recovered technology and potential interrogation. As personnel implemented these directives, Chi-Chi noticed Goku's continued distraction, his attention seemingly focused inward rather than on immediate surroundings. The ancient staff she'd provided remained in his grip, its inscriptions STI. LL faintly luminous with activated energy. The weapon performed as designed, she asked, creating opportunity for private conversation as they walked slightly apart from the main group. Beyond expectation, Goku confirmed, his voice quieter than usual. It responded to intentions rather than just physical commands. Almost like it recognized something in me. The inscriptions suggest it was designed for specific genetic signatures, Chi-Chi explained. Likely House Var, based on Commander Foch's identification. Goku nodded, but his troubled expression remained. It wasn't just the staff, Chi-Chi. During combat, I felt something awakening inside me, instincts I didn't know existed. A hunger for battle that felt exhilarating and disturbing simultaneously. Chi-Chi recognized the significance of this confession, not tactical information but deeply personal concern shared despite warrior's pride. Her response carried equal weight. The scrolls describe this phenomenon in detail, she said quietly. Viltrumite combat psychology includes neurochemical responses that enhance performance while potentially affecting judgment. It's neither weakness nor flaw, simply biological. Adaptation requiring conscious management. His eyes met hers with surprising vulnerability. How does one manage instincts encoded at cellular level? The same way any warrior masters their nature. She replied with conviction born from lifelong discipline. Through understanding, acceptance, and channeling rather than suppression. Something shifted in Goku's expression, not complete resolute on but the beginning of perspective that might lead there. Before he could respond, Foch approached with urgent purpose. Recovery teams have secured the scout vessels, she reported. Preliminary analysis indicates they were equipped with specialized scanning technology designed to penetrate defensive barriers. They were mapping the compound's internal layout and defensive capabilities. The implications hung heavily between them. The Imperial forces had gathered critical intelligence during their brief engagement. Whatever advantage Surprise had provided was rapidly diminishing. We should coordinate with Dr. Grayson's team immediately, Chi-Chi decided. Combine our knowledge of Viltrumite tactical doctrine with their technical expertise. As they headed toward the tactical center, Goku finally relinquished the staff to Chi-Chi's safekeeping. Their fingers brushed momentarily during the exchange, a contact brief in duration yet somehow significant beyond its simplicity. Unspoken communication passed between them. Trust given and received, responsibility acknowledged, alliance deepening beyond pragmatic necessity. Whatever challenges awaited, they would face them together. He tactical center hummed with focused energy as multiple teams coordinated response strategies. Debbie's specialists analyzed recovered Imperial technology, identifying capabilities and vulnerabilities with methodical precision. Ox Kingdom disciples maintained defensive systems while implementing evacuation protocols for non-essential personnel. Fasha provided critical intelligence on Imperial tactical doctrine, filling gaps in Earth's understanding of potential threats. At the center's heart, the Ox King directed operations with the gravitas of a leader who had prepared for this moment through decades of vigilance. Beside him, Chi-Chi translated ancient knowledge into practical application, her understanding of both traditional wisdom and modern methodology creating bridges between disparate approaches. Goku observed this coordination with newfound appreciation for organizational capability. His training under Grandfather Gohan had emphasized individual discipline and self-reliance. With limited exposure to collective action, witnessing the harmonious function of multiple specialists working toward common purpose expanded his understanding of effective response to large-scale threats. The capital ship maintains position beyond conventional detection range, reported a sensor specialist. Energy emissions suggest significant but restrained power generation, consistent with observation protocols rather than attack preparation. They're gathering information before committing resources, Fasha confirmed. Standard Imperial procedure when assessing protected worlds. The Scout engagement provided baseline data on defensive capabilities and key defenders. Debbie approached from the analysis laboratory, tablet displaying preliminary findings. The recovered technology incorporates advanced quantum entanglement systems that allow instantaneous communication despite defensive jamming. They've been transmitting continuous data streams to the capital ship throughout the engagement. Can we interrupt the transmission? Chi-Chi asked practically. Negative. The entanglement exists at fundamental quantum level, beyond conventional interference methods. Debbie's expression remained professionally neutral despite the concerning implications. However, we've identified the information packets being transmitted. Primarily structural analysis, defensive system schematics, and biometric data on identified combatants. The Ox King processed this information with centuries of strategic tradition informing his analysis. They're preparing targeted countermeasures against specific defenders and defensive systems. Their next engagement will be precisely calibrated to exploit identified vulnerabilities. Consistent with Imperial doctrine, Fasha agreed. First, contact is always information gathering. Second, contact applies lessons learned with overwhelming force at weak points. The blunt assessment hung heavily over the tactical center. Earth's first engagement with Imperial forces had been successful by conventional metrics: hostile craft neutralized without casualties, territory secured, prisoners captured. Yet strategically, they had perhaps lost more than gained, revealing capabilities while learning little about their opponent's full strength. Goku studied the tactical display where the disabled scout vessels appeared as highlighted points within the mountain range. Something about their distribution pattern nagged at his tactical instincts, not random crash locations but specific positioning that suggested purpose beyond failed retreat. The crash sites form an equilateral triangle, he observed, indicating the pattern. Precisely equidistant from each other and from the compound. Fasha immediately grasped the significance, moving to examine the display more closely. Triangulation array, she concluded with grim certainty. The vessels themselves are secondary data collection points, continuing to transmit even after apparent neutralization. Impossible, objected one of Debbie's specialists. We've confirmed complete power failure in all three craft. Imperial technology incorporates redundant systems with independent power sources, Fasha explained. The apparent shutdown would be tactical deception, concealing continued operation of priority systems. Debbie immediately issued orders to her team: full spectrum analysis of all crash sites. Focus on detecting quantum entanglement signatures operating independently from main power systems. Within minutes, her specialists confirmed Fasha's assessment: subtle energy patterns emanating from the disabled vessels, invisible to conventional scanning but detectable through specialized equipment calibrated to quantum fluctuations. The Imperial scouts continued, gathering intelligence despite apparent neutralization. We need to disrupt the triangulation network immediately, Chi-Chi decided, already moving toward operational planning. 3 strike teams, simultaneous deployment to ensure none compensates for others' disruption. The Ox King nodded approval. Chi-Chi will coordinate from Central Command. Each team requires technical specialists to identify and neutralize the transmission systems. I'll take the northern site, Goku volunteered immediately. The location presented greatest technical challenge: rugged terrain, limited approach vectors, highest altitude. Eastern site has lowest structural integrity, Fasha noted, studying damage assessments. Highest risk of secondary systems employing self-destruct protocols if tampered with. I'll handle that location. Debbie surprised everyone by stepping forward. I'll accompany the Western team. My expertise in quantum entanglement systems will be necessary for identifying the transmission mechanisms. Chi-Chi assessed these assignments with tactical precision before nodding agreement. Teams deploy in 15 minutes. Full containment protocols for all recovered technology. Prior ITY objective is disruption of triangulation network before the capital ship receives complete structural analysis of our defensive systems. As preparations commenced, Goku found himself momentarily alone with the Ox King, who had requested private consultation before deployment. The massive warrior scholar studied him with eyes that had witnessed decades of conflict while preserving ancient wisdom. The staff responded to you beyond expected parameters, the Ox King stated rather than asked. You felt its connection to your lineage. Yes, Goku confirmed simply. Fasha identified House V. AAR markings consistent with my father's research division. The Ox King nodded thoughtfully. There is more you should know before facing Imperial forces again. Come. He led Goku to a private chamber adjacent to the tactical center, a small meditation room with walls covered in ancient inscriptions similar to those adorning the staff. At the room's center stood a pedestal supporting a sealed container of unfamiliar design. its surface marked with warning symbols in multiple languages. The recovered scout vessels incorporated technology specifically designed to locate this artifact, the Ox King explained, placing his palm against a recognition panel on the container. Ancient mechanisms hummed as authentication proceeded. Imperial forces have sought it since the Third Expansion era. The container opened to reveal an object that momentarily defied comprehension. Neither weapon nor tool in conventional sense, its design incorporating elements that seemed to shift between states depending on viewing angle. Most striking was its resonance with Goku's internal energy, as though it recognized his presence despite being inanimate. "What is it?" he asked, instinctively maintaining distance despite powerful attraction. "A genetic key," the Ox King replied solemnly. "Created during Viltrum's golden age before imperial ambition corrupted their civilization. It responds only to specific bloodlines, primarily House Var. Your father's lineage." Goku studied the device with growing understanding. The Imperial forces aren't just here for planetary conquest. They're searching for this specifically. Among other artifacts scattered throughout Earth's ancestral repositories, the Ox King confirmed. Your arrival activated dormant recognition systems that had remained quiescent for generations. Nappa's subsequent appearance triggered Imperial monitoring protocols. The implications expanded Goku's understanding of recent events significantly. His presence on Earth wasn't merely coincidental to Imperial interest but potentially causal. His genetic signature had activated ancient systems that revealed Earth's importance to Viltrumite history. "What does it do?" he asked finally, the practical question asserting itself through philosophical implications. According to ancestral records, it accesses repository sites established before the Imperial Schism, locations containing knowledge and technology from Viltrum's pre-conquest era. The Ox King's expression conveyed the significance of this revelation, potentially including restoration protocols for Viltrumite genetic diversity. The weight of this knowledge settled heavily upon Goku's shoulders. Imperial interest in Earth transcended conventional conquest motivation. They sought specific technology that could ensure their species' survival and potential restoration to former power. His existence as carrier of pure Viltrumite genetics made him doubly valuable to their purposes. Does Fasha know about this? The Reformation likely suspects Earth contains ancestral repositories but lacks specific location knowledge, the Ox King replied. Their diplomatic approach suggests ethical constraints the Empire abandoned generations ago. Goku processed this information with growing awareness of the complex political situation surrounding him. Three distinct factions with interest in Viltrumite legacy now converged on Earth. The Imperial remnant seeking restoration through any means, the Reformation pursuing cooperative evolution beyond conquest culture, and Earth's own guardians preserving knowledge, while maintaining independence from both. "Why show me this now?" he asked finally, recognizing the Ox King's tactical purpose behind this revelation. "Because your heritage gives you unique perspective on what's truly at stake," came the measured response. The Imperial forces will employ increasingly aggressive measures to secure these artifacts. Understanding their motivation clarifies their potential actions. The Ox King resealed the container with ceremonial precision. "More importantly, you deserve truth about your lineage and its significance. The choices ahead will define not just your personal path but potentially your entire species' future direction." Before Goku could respond, Chi-Chi entered with focused urgency. Strike teams are assembled. Sensors detect increased activity from the capital ship. They're receiving substantial data from the triangulation network. Goku exchanged meaningful glances with the Ox King, unspoken understanding passing between them. The conversation about Viltrumite legacy would continue later. Immediate tactical concerns took precedence. "I'm ready," he confirmed, following Chi-Chi toward the deployment area. As they walked, she studied him with perceptive assessment. "My father showed you something important." Not a question but recognition of changed awareness evident in his bearing. Goku appreciated her directness, responding with equal honesty. Knowledge that contextualizes Imperial interest in Earth beyond conventional conquest motivation, he confirmed without detailing specifics. "It doesn't change our immediate objectives but clarifies potential escalation patterns." Chi-Chi accepted this limited disclosure with pragmatic understanding. Operational security sometimes necessitated compartmentalized information, particularly regarding ancestral artifacts of significant power. What mattered was his readiness for the mission at hand. Your team includes 2 technical specialists and 3 combat-trained disciples. She informed him as they reached the deployment area. The northern site presents most challenging terrain but potentially greatest intelligence value if systems remain intact for analysis. Goku recognized she had assigned him the most difficult yet potentially valuable objective, a tactical decision reflecting both confidence in his capabilities and prioritization of mission success over personal safety. The assignment honored his skills without sentiment clouding strategic necessity. We'll secure the transmission systems intact if possible, he assured her. But disruption remains primary objective regardless of intelligence value. Chi-Chi nodded approval of this prioritization. The staff has been recalibrated based on data from your previous engagement, she added, presenting the weapon with formal respect. The energy signature should disrupt Imperial technology more efficiently now. Their hands met briefly during the exchange, a contact that communicated more than words could express in the moment. Professional respect, personal concern, and growing connection beneath both. Be careful, she said simply, warrior to warrior. I will, he promised with equal simplicity. Maintain strong defenses here. If the triangulation network has already transmitted critical data, the capital ship may launch secondary operations while we're deployed. The tactical insight impressed her, reinforcing her assessment of his developing strategic capabilities. Defensive systems remain at maximum capacity. Fathers coordinating with Dr. Grayson to implement countermeasures against potential infiltration attempts. Further conversation halted as deployment preparations completed. The 3 teams moved toward their assigned transports, specialized vehicles combining TRA. Additional Ox Kingdom designs with modern technology, their capabilities enhanced through generations of adaptation. Goku boarded the northern team's transport, accepting final mission parameters from Chi-Chi through secure communication channels. As the vehicles departed through concealed mountain passages, he focused his awareness on the task ahead while remaining conscious of larger implications revealed by the Ox King. Whatever the Imperial forces sought, whatever his own heritage might mean for Earth's future, the immediate priority remained clear: protect this world that had become his home, regardless of where he had begun. The northern crash site perched precariously on a rocky outcropping 9,000 feet above sea level, the Imperial scout vessel partially embedded in ancient granite. Snow swirled around the exposed sections, accumulating on angular surfaces never designed for Earth's atmospheric conditions. Despite significant structural damage, subtle energy patterns emanated from within, the triangulation system continuing its assigned function despite apparent neutralization. Goku's team approached with cautious discipline, their transport settling onto a relatively stable area 300 meters from the crash site. The 2 technical specialists immediately deployed scanning equipment, confirming energy signatures consistent with quantum entanglement transmissions. Fascinating adaptation, noted Drive Shang, the quantum mechanics expert assigned to their team. They've incorporated molecular resonance amplifiers that utilize the surrounding mineral composition as transmission medium. The entire mountain is effectively serving as antenna. Can you disrupt it? Goku asked practically, eyes continually scanning for potential security systems or automated defenses. Theoretically, yes, she replied, adjusting her specialized equipment. But direct interference might trigger failsafe protocols. We need to identify the primary transmission node before attempting disruption. The 3 combat-trained disciples established perimeter security while Goku and the specialists approached the damaged vessel. Unlike Earth aircraft, Imperial scout ships utilized biological components integrated with mechanical systems, a hybrid technology reflecting Viltrumite principles of strength through integration rather than separation. The primary access point appears compromised, observed Drive Veda, the materials specialist. However, attempting entry through the damaged section might trigger remaining security systems. Goku studied the vessel with eloping sensitivity to Viltrumite design principles. There, he indicated, pointing toward a section that appeared intact but incorporated subtle differences in surface texture. Emergency access protocol panel should bypass primary security systems. Dr. Shang raised questioning eyebrows. You're familiar with Imperial vessel design. Not consciously, Goku admitted. But something about the pattern seems recognizable. Another manifestation of cellular memory, knowledge encoded at genetic level rather than learned through conventional education. The phenomenon both fascinated and disturbed him, raising questions about how much of his developing abilities stemmed from personal growth versus predetermined Viltrumite inheritance. The emergency access panel responded to targeted application of the staff's energy. Molecular bonds temporarily reconfiguring to create an opening. Interior lighting remained minimal, emergency systems providing basic illumination through bioluminescent T-panels embedded in structural supports. Atmosphere reading within human tolerance parameters, drive. Veda confirmed, checking portable sensors. Though I recommend breathing apparatus as precaution against potential contaminants. They donned specialized masks before entering the vessel, a cramped space made more confining by damaged systems protruding from displacement warped walls. The layout confirmed Foch's intelligence regarding Imperial scout craft, primary pilot positions forward, tactical systems centralized, engineering compartment aft. All designed for efficiency rather than comfort, emphasizing function over form. Triangulation system should interface with primary communication array, drive. Shang noted, following energy signatures through specialized viewing equipment, most likely located in the tactical center. Quote, they moved carefully through the damaged corridor connecting compartments, mindful of exposed components and potential security measures. Though the vessel appeared disabled, Imperial technology incorporated numerous redundancies and trap systems designed to protect sensitive equipment even after catastrophic failure. The tactical center presented a NTRATED display of advanced technology, control interfaces designed for Viltrumite physiology, display systems incorporating three-dimensional projection, and processing capabilities exceeding Earth's most sophisticated computers. Despite significant damage to peripheral systems, the central array maintained function, subtle energy pulses confirming active transmission. Incredible, drive, Veda whispered, professional detachment momentarily overwhelmed by the technology's sophistication. Their material science must incorporate principles we haven't even theorized yet. Focus on the triangulation system, Goku reminded them. Sensing subtle changes in the vessel's energy patterns. Something's happening with the transmission frequency. Dr. Shang confirmed his observation through specialized equipment. Transmission rate increasing exponentially. They're dumping data at accelerated pace, likely response to our presence detected through security protocols. Can you interrupt it? Working on it, she replied. Connecting specialized equipment to access points identified through preliminary scanning. The encryption uses quantum state variables that shift according to observation patterns. Fascinating defensive concept, the very act of analyzing it changes its parameters. While the specialists worked to disrupt the transmission systems, Goku explored the tactical center within. Increasing sensitivity to Viltrumite design philosophy. Unlike human technology that generally separated systems for maintenance efficiency, Imperial design incorporated overlapping redundancies where primary functions continued despite significant component loss. A particular console drew his attention, not through obvious importance but subtle energy resonance similar to the artifact the Ox King had revealed. Acting on instinct rather than conscious knowledge, Goku placed the staff near this console, observing how its inscriptions responded to proximity. Dr. Shang, he called quietly, what would happen if we introduced counter-frequency through this interface rather than attempting direct interruption? She glanced up from her work, momentarily confused before comprehension dawned. Theoretical possibility, using their own transmission system to propagate interference pattern. But we'd need precise calibration matching their base frequency. The staff might provide that calibration, Goku suggested, indicating how its inscriptions had shifted in response to the console's energy pattern. It was designed specifically to counter Imperial technology. The quantum specialist studied this interaction with growing excitement. Yes, that could work. Instead of attacking the transmission directly, we introduce subtle variants that compounds through the triangulation network. The entire system would effectively disrupt itself. They implemented this approach with careful precision, Goku providing intuitive guidance based on how the staff responded, drive. Shang translating these observations into technical application through specialized equipment. Rather than brute force disruption, they introduced harmonious interference that gradually shifted transmission parameters beyond functional tolerance. The triangulation system's energy signature fluctuated, stabilized briefly, then began degraded oscillation indicating communication failure. Throughout the vessel, previously dormant systems responded to this disruption with automated recovery attempts, lights flickering as power redirected to maintain priority functions. It's working. Drive. Veda confirmed, monitoring overall system response. Transmission coherence dropping below functional parameters. The triangulation network is losing synchronization. We should. Goku began, before sharp awareness cut through his thoughts. Everyone out now. Security protocol activating. He grabbed both specialists and moved with Viltrumite speed toward the exit, enhanced senses detecting energy buildup consistent with defensive countermeasures. They cleared the vessel moments before interior systems released electromagnetic pulse designed to neutralize unauthorized access equipment. Had they remained inside, their technology would have been rendered useless and escape potentially compromised. How did you know, Doctor? Shang asked once safely outside, watching as the vessel briefly illuminated from within before returning to apparent dormancy. Energy pattern shift felt familiar, Goku explained simply. The truth was more complex, another manifestation of cellular memory providing recognition without conscious learning. His Viltrumite heritage continued revealing itself through instinctive knowledge activated by circumstantial triggers. The combat-trained disciples maintained security perimeter while Drive IANG confirmed transmission disruption through specialized equipment. Triangulation network completely desynchronized. The interference pattern propagated through all three nodes simultaneously, causing cascading failure throughout the system. Will they be able to restore function? Goku asked practically. Unlikely without physical intervention, she assessed. The pattern we introduced created self-reinforcing degradation in their quantum entanglement matrices. Even with direct access, they'd need to replace core components rather than simply reset systems. Tactical success achieved, they prepared for extraction, gathering critical data while ensuring no functionality remained in the disabled vessel. As the team boarded their transport for return to the Ox Kingdom compound, Goku received confirmation through secure channels that all three strike teams had achieved primary objectives with similar success. The triangulation network had been neutralized before complete structural analysis of Earth's defenses could be transmitted to the capital ship. A tactical victory in the developing engagement with Imperial forces, though perhaps temporary advantage rather than strategic resolution. During the return journey, Goku's attention divided between immediate mission assessment and larger implications revealed by the Ox King. Imperial interest in specific artifacts suggested motivation beyond conventional conquest. They sought something believed essential to their species' survival or restoration. Understanding this motivation might provide insight into potential escalate on patterns or negotiation possibilities. His thoughts turned to Fasha and the Reformation she represented, a faction of his species that had rejected imperial conquest philosophy in favor of cooperative evolution. How much did they know about Earth's ancestral repositories? Did their diplomatic approach conceal similar interest in artifacts that might ensure Viltrumite survival? More personally, how did this knowledge affect his own developing identity? The genetic key responding specifically to Hao's Var lineage suggested his father's importance transcended military or scientific contribution. Bardock may have been central to knowledge preservation efforts during Viltrum's fragmentation, his bloodline specifically encoded for access to critical repositories. The transport crested Fina Mountain Pass revealing the Ox Kingdom compound below, ancient architecture harmonizing with natural surroundings while concealing sophisticated defensive systems. As they approached, Goku sensed heightened activity within the complex. Energy patterns suggesting increased defensive readiness rather than standard operations. Something's happened, he informed the team, enhanced perception detecting subtle changes invisible to conventional observation. The compound's at maximum alert status. The transport's communication system activated immediately, Chi-Chi's voice carrying focused urgency. Northern team, be advised. Capital ship has launched secondary operation. Stealth insertion craft detected approaching compound perimeter. Defensive systems engaged in holding, but approach with caution through eastern passage for secured entry. Tactical victory at the triangulation sites had triggered predicted escalation. Imperial forces proceeding to direct engagement now that reconnaissance options were compromised. The pattern matched Foch's description of standard Imperial doctrine, information gathering followed by precisely targeted intervention based on acquired intelligence. Their transport diverted to the indicated approach vector, following secure protocols for verified entry through the compound's enhanced defensive perimeter. As they descended toward the landing area, Goku observed evidence of recent engagement, energy discharge patterns consistent with defensive systems repelling attempted infiltration. Chi-Chi met them at the secured entry point, her formal comb. At attire now supplemented with additional protective elements. Despite the crisis atmosphere, she maintained perfect composure, issuing precise directions to returning team members while updating Goku on developing situation. The capital ship launched 5 stealth insertion craft approximately 30 minutes after your teams reached the triangulation sites, she reported as they moved toward the tactical center. Preliminary targeting suggested attempt to breach compound perimeter while defensive focus was divided. Casualties? Goku asked immediately, concern evident despite tactical framing. None on our side, Chi-Chi confirmed. Defensive systems neutralized 3 craft before they reached inner perimeter. The remaining 2 retreated to high atmosphere after breach attempts failed. Professional assessment couldn't completely mask her satisfaction at this outcome. The Ox Kingdom's defensive preparations, maintained through generations of vigilance, had proven effective again. Saint advanced Imperial technology, validation of ancestral wisdom in modern context. They reached the tactical center where activity had intensified since Goku's departure. Debbie's team had expanded their analysis operations, integrating data from recovered Imperial technology while monitoring defensive systems. Foch coordinated with Ox Kingdom personnel, providing critical insights on Imperial cetical patterns while assisting countermeasure implementation. The Ox King acknowledged Goku's return with dignified nod before continuing operational direction. Eastern perimeter reports no additional approach vectors detected. Maintain heightened surveillance and prepare secondary defensive grid for potential energy-based assault. Foch approached as Goku received preliminary debriefing, her expression combining professional assessment with genuine concern. Your team's approach to the triangulation network was innovative, she noted. Using their own transmission system to propagate interference pattern shows developing understanding of Imperial technology vulnerabilities. Intuitive response rather than strategic planning, Goku admitted, matching her candor. The staff's interaction with their systems suggested the approach. Something in his tone must have revealed deeper concerns, as Foch studied him with increased attention. You've learned something significant during this engagement, she observed. Something beyond tactical information. Before Goku could formulate appropriate response, Debbie joined their conversation, tablet displaying analysis of recovered data from the triangulation sites. The transmission contents confirm our suspicions, she reported. They were conducting comprehensive structural analysis of the compound, with particular focus on subterranean sections beneath the ancestral archives. Chi-Chi exchanged meaningful glances with her father, and spoken communication passing between them. The Imperial forces had targeted precisely the Ares containing the genetic key and related artifacts, confirming the Ox King's assessment of their true objectives. The capital ship has adjusted position, reported a sensor specialist. Maintaining G-high orbit but repositioning for improved targeting vectors consistent with precision strike capability. They're preparing for direct engagement now that stealth options have failed, Foch assessed grimly. Standard escalation protocol when priority objectives remain unsecured despite preliminary operations. The tactical implications hung heavily over the command center. Initial victories at the triangulation sites and perimeter defense had demonstrated Earth's protective capabilities, but Imperial forces possessed overwhelming firepower should they commit to direct assault. Strategic success required understanding their true objectives and potentially using these motivations as leverage. We need to address the underlying situation rather than just responding to tactical movements, Goku suggested. Decision crystallizing through developing strategic awareness. Their actions suggest specific objectives beyond general conquest. Understanding those objectives might provide negotiation leverage. The Ox King studied him thoughtfully before nodding agreement. Wisdom beyond your years, young guardian. Chi-Chi, prepare the diplomatic chamber for formal communication with the Imperial vessel. You believe they'll negotiate? Debbie asked skeptically. practical experience with governmental operations informing her assessment of military mindsets. Not initially, the Ox King acknowledged. But offering communication channels acknowledges awareness of their capabilities while demonstrating civilization rather than mere defensive reaction. The approach honors their strength while suggesting mutual benefit through cooperation. Chi-Chi immediately implemented her father's directives, coordinating preparation of ceremonial space that doubled as secure communication center. The Ox Kingdom had maintained diplomatic protocols for extraterrestrial communication throughout its history, preserving knowledge that predated modern governmental first contact procedures by millennia. I should represent the Reformation during any communication, Fascia stated, professional responsibility asserting itself. Imperial commanders respond to recognized authority structures even when opposing their objectives. Agreed, the Ox King confirmed. Dr. Grayson, would you serve as Earth governmental representative? Your scientific authority complements our historical position. Debbie accepted this role with appropriate gravity, recognizing the historic significance of potential first official communication between Earth and Imperial Viltrumite forces. The diplomatic approach represented transition from purely tactical engagement to political interaction, evolution beyond military response toward civilizational dialogue, however adversarial initially. As preparations continued, Goku found opportunity for private consultation with the Ox King, seeking wisdom regarding his potential role in upcoming negotiations. The ancient master led him to a quiet alcove adjacent to the tactical center, where conversation could proceed without interrupting operational necessities. You're troubled by knowledge of your heritage's significance to imperial objectives, the Ox King observed with perceptive understanding. Should I offer myself as negotiating point? Goku asked directly, the question that had formed since learning of the genetic key's importance. If they want Viltrumite genetics for restoration purposes, perhaps my voluntary participation could prevent escalation that threatens Earth. The Ox King's expression revealed both compassion and strategic assessment. A noble but potentially misguided sacrifice, he replied carefully. Imperial interest extends beyond your genetics to specific artifacts responding to your lineage. Offering yourself without those artifacts would likely accelerate their efforts rather than resolving the situation. This assessment aligned with Goku's developing understanding of Imperial motivation, yet left fundament. Question unresolved. What role should he play in upcoming negotiations? Simple defensive asset, potential bargaining point, or something more significant? Your greatest value lies in representation of alternative Viltrumite potential. The Ox King continued, wisdom accumulated through decades of studying extraterrestrial histories informing his perspective. You embody what their species might become through evolution beyond conquest culture, strength harmonized with compassion, power guided by wisdom. That seems insufficient leverage against Imperial warships, Goku noted practically. A smile touched the Ox King's weathered features. Perhaps, but civilizations rise and fall through ideas more often than weapons. The Imperial forces represent Viltrum's past. You and the Reformation represent potential futures. That philosophical conflict underlies tactical engagements. Before further discussion could develop, Chi-Chi approached with purposeful stride. The diplomatic chamber is prepared. The capital ship has acknowledged our communication request and designated representative for dialogue. The Ox King nodded solemnly. Then we proceed as tradition dictates. Son Goku, why? Our place in this exchange will be guardian rather than primary negotiator. Observe, protect, but allow diplomatic processes to unfold according to established protocols. This role, protector rather than central participant, aligned with Goku's developing understanding of his position between worlds. Neither fully Earth representative nor Viltrumite diplomat but guardian of potential balance between civilizations. His presence necessary yet purposefully restrained during formal proceedings. The diplomatic chamber presented stark contrast to the tactical center's technological focus, ancient architecture incorporating ceremonial elements that conveyed historical authority rather than military power. Circular design placed all participants at equal distance from center point where communicate. Ion equipment had been integrated into traditional elements with remarkable harmony. Chi-Chi directed participants to appropriate positions according to ancestral protocols. The Ox King is Earth's historical representative. Debbie is scientific authority, Fascia as Reformation envoy. Support personnel maintained respectful distance while ensuring technical systems functioned perfectly for this historic communication. Goku took position slightly removed from central participants, present and visible but not directly engaged in diplomatic proceedings. The staff Chi-Chi had provided remained in his possession, its potential both practical weapon and symbolic representation of his heritage's complexity. The communication system activated with characteristic imperial efficiency, no preliminary signals or gradual establishment but immediate full-spectrum presence. The holographic projection materialized in the chamber's center, revealing their diplomatic counterpart with stark clarity. The imperial representative's appearance commanded immediate attention, female Viltrumite of evident high rank, her bearing suggesting both military authority and political acumen. Formal armor incorporated, insignia indicating command status within imperial hierarchy, while subtle elements of her appearance suggested genetic relationship to Fascia despite opposing allegiance. "I am Supreme Commander Solera of the Imperial Restoration Fleet," she announced without preliminary courtesy. "Your defensive capabilities have been noted and assessed. Further resistance remains futile but potentially acceptable. Casualties depending on cooperation levels regarding priority objectives." The blunt approach confirmed imperial negotiation patterns described in ancestral scrolls, acknowledgement of demonstrated strength followed by overwhelming force assertion, with cooperation framed as damage limitation rather than mutual benefit. The Ox King responded with dignity befitting 20 generations of diplomatic tradition. "Supreme Commander, I am Gyumao, ancestral guardian of Earth's cosmic legacy. This world stands under formal protection of both historical compact and recent Reformation recognition. We welcome dialogue regarding mutual interests while maintaining sovereignty non-negotiable." Solera's expression revealed momentary reassessment, the Ox King's use of formal titles and diplomatic protocols suggesting greater cosmic awareness than anticipated from supposedly primitive world. Her attention shifted briefly to other participants, tactical assessment evident in her gaze. "The Reformati has no legitimate authority to extend protection status," she stated dismissively, attention focusing on Fascia. "Commander Talon's presence constitutes unauthorized interference in Imperial reclamation operations. Earth's protected status predates current conflict by millennia," Fascia countered smoothly. "The ancestral compact established during pre-Imperial expansion era remains binding und universal diplomatic protocols recognized by all major cosmic authorities. This exchange established foundational positions for subsequent negotiation, Imperial assertion of authority versus Earth's claim to recognize protection under multiple cosmic frameworks. The diplomatic approach had successfully elevated engagement from purely military confrontation to civilizational dialogue, however adversarial initially. Solera's attention shifted suddenly, her focus landing directly on Goku despite his purposefully removed position. "Kakarot of House Var," she acknowledged with unexpected formality. "Your genetic signature confirms lineage connection to priority objectives. Voluntary cooperation would benefit both your adoptive world and our species' restoration efforts." The direct ADDR's forced Goku into active participation despite planned observatory role. He stepped forward with composed dignity, conscious of representing both Earth's interests and alternative Viltrumite potential through his response. "My name is Son Goku," he stated firmly, establishing identity beyond genetic designation. "Earth is my home, its people my primary concern. Any cooperation must prioritize their safety and sovereignty without compromise." Solera studied him with complex expression, tactical assessment combined with something deeper, perhaps genuine interest in encountering pure-blooded Viltrumite raised beyond imperial influence. When she spoke again, her tone carried subtle shift from purely military authority toward diplomatic engagement. "Your genetic heritage represents critical component in species preservation efforts," she explained, framing imperial objectives in restoration rather than conquest terminology. "Certain artifacts responding specifically to House Var linea contain knowledge essential to preventing genetic degradation affecting our remaining population." The Ox King seized this opening with centuries of diplomatic tradition informing his approach. Preservation rather than conquest motivates your presence, perhaps mutual benefit possibilities exist beyond military confrontation. Earth has maintained knowledge regarding Viltrumite biology that may complement your restoration efforts without compromising our sovereignty. This reframing, from military standoff to potential knowledge exchange, created space for negotiation beyond simple power dynamics. Solera's expression revealed calculation as she assessed potential advantages against military resources already committed. The Empire requires direct access to specific artifacts responding to Hao's VAR genetic signatures. She stated, position softening slightly while maintaining core objectives. Supervised access might be negotiable assuming appropriate security protocols and verification of information authenticity. Debbie entered the conversation with scientific precision complementing the Ox King's historical authority. Earth's scientific community has developed considerable understanding of genetic restoration methodologies that might benefit your efforts. Collaborative research presenting mutual advantages seems logical alternative to conflict that damages potential resources. The negotiation proceeded along these lines. Imperial demands gradually transitioning toward provisional cooperation frameworks, Earth representatives maintaining sovereignty requirements while acknowledging potential mutual benefits through controlled knowledge exchange. Throughout this diplomatic dance, Goku observed with developing appreciation for negotiation complexities beyond simple combat resolution. When preliminary framework had been established for potential cooperation, Solera addressed him directly again. Kakarot, Son Goku, your participation remains essential regardless of diplomatic arrangements. House VAR genetic markers provide access to repositories our technology cannot bypass through alternative means. I understand the significance, Goku acknowledged. Decision forming through balanced consideration of conflicting responsibilities. I'm willing to participate in controlled access operations assuming appropriate safeguards for Earth's security and sovereignty. This personal commitment, offering cooperation without surrender, represented significant concession while maintaining essential principles. The balance reflected growing understanding of his unique position between worlds, neither fully Earth representative nor Viltrumite agent but potential bridge between civilizations. Solera assessed this offer with evident satisfaction. Acceptable preliminary arrangement. Technical representatives will establish communication protocols for detailed negotiation regarding access parameters and knowledge exchange limitations. The holographic projection deactivated with characteristic imperial abruptness. No formal conclusion but simple termination once objectives achieved. The diplomatic chamber remained silent momentarily as participants assessed the historical significance of this first official negotiation between Earth and Imperial Viltrumite forces. That proceeded better than statistical probability suggested, Fasha noted, Professor. Echelonal assessment breaking the contemplative silence. Supreme Commander Solera's willingness to consider collaborative approaches indicates shifting priorities within Imperial hierarchy. Or tact. ICAL deception to gain access through diplomatic means when military approach proved costly, Chi-Chi suggested practically, warriors' skepticism balancing diplomatic optimism. The Ox King stroked his beard thoughtfully. Truth likely incorporates elements of both perspectives. Genuine need regarding genetic restoration creates negotiation openings, while imperial tactical doctrine would certainly exploit such openings for additional advantage. Debbie's analytical mind focused on pragmatic implications. We should establish clear verification protocols before allowing any imperial representatives access to Earth facilities. Their scanning technology already demonstrated capability to penetrate standard security measures. Agreed, the Ox King confirmed. Ancestral protections incorporate 8 verification systems specifically designed against Viltrumite deception methods. We'll implement appropriate safeguards while maintaining diplomatic progress. As operational discussions continued regarding implementation details, Goku found himself approached by Chi-Chi, her expression combining tactical assessment with something more personal. Your offer of participation was significant concession, she observed quietly. Are you certain of this commitment? Not entirely, he admitted with characteristic honesty. But refusing cooperation ensures continued military pressure, while controlled participation creates possibility for resolution without further conflict. Chi-Chi studied him with deepening appreciation for his developing strategic thinking. The impulsive warrior she first encountered at the tournament had evolved considerably through recent challenges, still direct and action-oriented but now balancing these qualities with thoughtful consideration of complex implications. The ancestral scrolls contain specific protocols for supervised access to repository sites, she informed him. Designed precisely for situations where Viltrumite representatives required access without compromising overall security. We'll implement appropriate protections before any actual cooperation proceeds. Her concern touched him beyond professional considerations, genuine active instinct rather than merely tactical caution. Their connection had developed through shared challenges and mutual respect, creating foundation stronger than conventional relationships based on simpler attractions. "Thank you," he said simply, the words conveying more than their surface meaning. Before further conversation could develop, Fasha approached with urgent purpose, her communicat ion device displaying updated information. "The capital ship has adjusted orbital position consistent with de-escalation protocols," she reported. "Preliminary withdrawal of strike craft suggests genuine commitment to diplomatic approach. At least temporarily." This tactical confirmation of diplomatic progress provided welcome evidence that negotiations had achieved meaningful results beyond simple delay tactics. The immediate crisis appeared resolved through successful combination of demonstrated strength and diplomatic engagement, Earth's defensive capabilities proving sufficient to motivate Imperial forces toward negotiation rather than conquest. "We should maintain heightened defensive readiness despite these positive indicators," Chi-Chi suggested practically. Imperial Tactical Doc Tr. In includes strategic withdrawal when direct approach proves costly. "Agreed," Fasha confirmed. Standard procedure would involve regrouping while assessing diplomatic opportunities, maintaining military options while pursuing less costly alternatives. The Ox King directed implementation of appropriate security protocols, maintaining defensive readiness while preparing for potential diplomatic exchanges. The compound's activity transitioned from crisis response toward sustained vigilance, acknowledging reduced immediate threat while recognizing continuing strategic concerns. As operational focus shifted, Goku found opportunity for private consultation with Fasha regarding Imperial Commander Solera's unexpected engagement. The Reformation representative considered his questions with thoughtful assessment before responding. Solera's approach suggests genuine concern regarding Viltrumite genetic degradation, she acknowledged. The Empire's remaining population suffers increasing production difficulties and cellular stability issues, consequences of limited genetic diversity following Viltrum's fragmentation. And my lineage provides potential solution to these problems. Goku asked, seeking clarity regarding his specific importance to Imperial objectives. House Var specialized in evolutionary biology and genetic adaptation research, Fasha explained. Your father's I vision developed preservation protocols anticipating potential species vulnerability during the Civil War. The repositories they established contained knowledge beyond conventional Imperial science, potentially including restoration methodologies essential for long-term species survival. This explanation aligned with information provided by the Ox King regarding the genetic key's significance. Imperial interest transcended simple conquest motivation. They sought specific knowledge believed essential to their species' continuation beyond current generation. The Reformation faces similar challenges. Goku inquired, noting how Fasha had referenced Imperial difficulties without addressing her own faction's situation. Different approach to common problem, she acknowledged. We've pursued genetic diversification through cooperative integration with compatible species, while maintaining research into cellular stabilization techniques. Progress remains insufficient for long-term sustainability. But our timeline extends further than Imperial projections. This candid assessment revealed vulnerability beyond military or political positioning, both Viltrumite factions facing existential threat through biological limitations rather than external opposition. The knowledge preserved on Earth potentially offered salvation transcending factional conflict, explaining the convergence of interest from opposing groups. If restoration knowledge truly exists within Earth repositories, Goku suggested, wouldn't shared access benefit both factions while reducing conflict motivation? Ha's expression combined appreciation for his insight with practical assessment of factional realities. Logical conclusion from neutral perspective. However, centuries of conflict create barriers beyond rational consideration. Imperial doctrine views Reformation approaches as weakness threatening species purity, while our faction considers Imperial methods fundamentally corrupted by conquest philosophy. The entrenched ideological positions complicated potential resolution beyond simple knowledge access. Even facing extinction, the divided Viltrumite factions maintained opposing visions. Riga. RDING appropriate survival methodologies, imperial focus on genetic purity versus Reformation emphasis on adaptive diversity. Yet both sent representatives to Earth seeking similar objectives, Goku observed. Identifying potential common ground beneath factional differences. Necessity sometimes overcomes ideology, Fasha acknowledged. Perhaps Earth's neutrality provides opportunity for approach. He's impossible within existing factional frameworks. This possibility, Earth as neutral ground for potential reconciliation beyond traditional opposition, suggested significance beyond immediate tactical concerns. Son Goku's unique position between worlds might serve greater purpose than simple defense or representation, potential bridge between divided factions sharing common ancestral heritage. Further conversation halted as Chi-Chi approached with focused purpose, tactical updates requiring immediate attention. Perimeter sensors detect atmospheric disturbance consistent with smaller craft approaching from northeastern vector. She reported, signature suggests neither Imperial nor Reformation design. Another faction, Goku asked, immediately alert to potential new complication. Unknown, Fasha responded, checking readings on her communication device. Energy patterns don't match established Viltrumite technology from either faction. Possibly independent entity attracted by recent activity. The tactical center resumed crisis footing as defensive systems tracked the approaching craft. Unlike previous Imperial vessels, this newcomer made no attempt at stealth or evasion, roaching directly while broadcasting identification signals on multiple frequencies. Translation protocols recognize elements of the transmission, reported a communications specialist. Partial ch to ancient dialects preserved in ancestral archives. Attempting coherent interpretation. Moments later, translated message appeared on primary displays, its content surprising all present. NTION Earth Defenders and Visiting Viltrumites. Independent observer approaching under peaceful protocol. Requesting communication regarding recent compact activation. Ancient preservation networks have awakened. The scattered return when called. The cryptic message prompted immediate consultation of ancestral records, the Ox King personally accessing sealed archives containing information. Riga. Ding entities known as the scattered in ancient texts. While research proceeded, defensive systems maintained vigilance around the approaching craft, tracking its controlled descent toward designated communication range. Ancestral records identify the scattered as Viltrumite separatists who departed before the Imperial expansion era, the Ox King reported after consulting historical documents. Neither aligned with empire builders nor directly opposing them, philosophical faction seeking independent development beyond mainstream Viltrumite culture. A third faction, Debbie questioned. Scientific curiosity engaged despite strategic concerns, existing independently for thousands of years without detection by either current group. The records suggest they pursued extreme adaptation to diverse environments. The Ox King continued, potentially explaining their development beyond recognition by contemporary Viltrumite factions. Fasha received this information with evident surprise, disrupting her usual diplomatic composure. Reformation histories contain references to separatist groups from pre-imperial era, but they were believed extinct or assimilated during early expansion periods. Living descendants would represent significant historical discontinuity. The approaching vessel entered visual range, its design unlike either imperial or Reformation craft, incorporating organic elements harmonized with technological components in patterns suggesting entirely different developmental philosophy. No weapons systems appeared evident, though advanced shielding protected essential components. Shall we establish communication? Chi-Chi asked, attention focused on her father while maintaining tactical awareness of developing situation. The Ox King considered briefly before nodding authorization. Activate diplomatic protocols for neutral contact. Maintain defensive readiness but present cooperative stance consistent with ancestral teachings regarding the scattered. The communication system established connection with remarkable ease, suggesting compatibility built into the visitor's technology specifically for interfacing with Earth systems. The holographic projection materialized with greater subtlety than Imperial technology, gradually coalescing rather than instantly manifesting, the approach suggesting preference for harmonious transition rather than dominant presence. The visitor's appearance generated immediate stunned silence throughout the tactical center. Though recognizably Viltrumite in basic physiology, significant adaptations differentiated this individual from either Imperial or Reformation representatives. Most striking were elaborate markings across exposed skin, not mere decorative patterns but functional adaptations suggesting symbiotic relationship with apparent technological elements. "I am Zorn, observer of the separated," the visitor introduced himself, voice carrying musical quality absent from other Viltrumite speech patterns. The awakening of ancestral beacons has drawn attention across substantial distance. The compact's activation signals significant change in established patterns. The Ox King responded with formal dignity appropriate to historic contact. "I am Gumao, ancestral guardian of Earth's cosmic legacy." The compact was invoked in response to Imperial intervention threatening Earth's sovereignty. "Your knowledge of these matters suggests connection to Earth's historical development." The separated maintained observational awareness while pursuing independent evolution, Zorn confirmed. "TH remains significant nexus point in potential developmental pathways for multiple civilizations." Recent convergence of opposing Viltrumite factions indicates activation of preservation protocols established before the sundering. This confirmation of Earth's special significance aligned with information contained in ancestral archives while suggesting greater cosmic awareness than previously documented. The visitor's reference to preservation protocols, particularly connected with knowledge regarding repository sites responding to specific genetic signatures. As diplomatic exchange continued, Goku studied the visitor with developing sensitivity to energy patterns beyond visual appearance. Unlike Imperial or Reformation Viltrumites whose power projected through concentrated force, Zorn's energy flowed in harmonious patterns suggesting integration with surrounding environment rather than dominance over it. When appropriate opportunity presented itself, Goku addressed the visitor directly. "You mentioned ancestral beacons awakening. Was my arrival on Earth connected to these activations?" Zorn's attention shifted to Goku with evident interest, assessment that seemed to perceive beyond physical appearance toward deeper significance. "Kakarot of House Var, your genetic signature represents critical catalyst in preservation network activation. The repositories respond specifically to your lineage patterns, recognizing continuation despite the sundering. Because my father helped create them," Goku suggested, connecting disparate information into coherent understanding. Bardock envisioned potential futures beyond factional limitations, Zorn confirmed. The repositories contain knowledge transcending political divisions, evolutionary pathways accessible only when division resolves toward integration.